I will be presiding tonight. I want to thank those of you that have given us these goodies. I understand it's School Board Appreciation Week, month, whatever, and I feel the real people that should be appreciated is our staff and the teachers and principals and all that are in close contact and doing such a great job with our children. But thank you so much for the emails, the Twitter, and all. I feel kind of special, so thank you. We'll have roll call now.
Ms. Parker? Ms. Kinzer?
Present.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mr. Pennings? Here. Mr. Morris present. Mr. Atkinson? Mr. Bates? Here. Mr. Beaver? Here. Ms. Powers? Ms. Morency? Here. Mr. Dudley? Yeah, we do have enough people to form business tonight.
All right, thank you. Tonight, Culleoka Unit School is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So won't you stand with me, and then we'll have a moment of silence.
Salute. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next order of business is to adopt an agenda, and I've had someone request that the FYI, the Spring Hill School that's on, that's item 11 on the back page of, under FYI, that we move it up to other business. It would be number 4, right after the discussion of the budget priorities.
Motion to approve as amended.
All right, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second? All right, then we're ready to vote. Oh, autopilot, what am I doing? Okay, and that motion carried. Recognition and announcements, Dr. Marzak?
Yes, we have an addition to the recognitions and announcements. We have Mayor Charlie Norman here tonight, Mr. Mayor, who's going to come up, and he's got something for you guys.
Good evening. It's that time of year again, but going to get a proclamation for school board appreciation. Whereas an excellent public education system is vital to the quality of our life, our communities, and to the economic development of our state, and whereas school board members represent a tremendous resource as local decision makers, diligently working to meet the challenges of a dynamic world while ensuring that every child receives the services needed for a quality education. And whereas the men and women of our local school boards are elected by the people who make decisions most appropriate for their communities and deserve recognition and thanks for their countless hours of service to public education in Tennessee. Now therefore I, Charles Norman, County Mayor of Maury County, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim January 29, 2018 as School Board Appreciation in Maury County. Encourage all citizens to join me in this worthy observance. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next up is the Maury County Education Association.
We have one more, Ms. Kinzer.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Lori?
okay, not a problem. I'd like to recognize, and a lot of people didn't know about this, but I'd like to recognize Dr. Lori Brown, our CTE supervisor. Not sure if she was able to make it tonight, if she's in the room. She was just announced as the South Central Regional Pioneer Award recipient for 2017-18. We are proud of her work in the CTE department, and our region is made up of 14 counties, and the competition is fierce. So next, she'll be competing for the Tennessee Pioneer Award against all regionally awarded CTE directors. So congratulations to Dr. Brown.
All right, this was not an accident. I get asked that all the time. Explain that in a minute. Good evening, school board members, Dr. Marzak, folks that are here, community residents. Just to answer first about my scooter, my surgery. I didn't have an accident. I had scheduled surgery during the Christmas break early on. That's a long recovery time, and believe it or not, I did not want to miss any school. I did not. I actually like being in the classroom, so I did not miss any classes. I want you to know that. By the way, I'm very grateful for the medical insurance and hope that our board will continue to provide this benefit without increases in premiums. We get notification of a lot of school systems in the state that have been stingy or missing in action on pay raises, but then they increase the insurance premiums, and you and I know that's actually just a pay cut. I want to address the board and Dr. Marzak on some problems that we're having over a period of time with communication with central office. Among we educators, it's quite well known with a bit of despair and frustration that just because I email someone in central office or call doesn't mean I get a prompt response. In fact, I've grown weary over the past year plus, on the number of complaints I receive about poor or slow communication from central office. This was very apparent with the first payroll problems that began fall of 2016. Many employees, for example, filled out the payroll form to address a particular payroll problem. Some did receive response, many received slow response, many didn't get any response, or when they called back. The problem continues. Let me give you an example. Tuesday the 23rd, myself, I emailed Ms. Gagliano and Ms. Hargrove and copied Dr. Marzak about the failure to pay on December's paycheck for teachers who covered for subs who did not show. This compensation we're grateful for is, of course, now board policy. In the 2016-2017 school year, this compensation was paid in December 2016 and June 2017. Since we had never received any communication from central office and any change in payment dates, we could only assume that these would be the dates for this year as well, too. Just a simple email from central office in December would have given employees the heads up and the information that we needed to expect this compensation and when. Okay? And that would have been fine with us. We received no such communication, nor did I receive any response from central office related to my email of January 23rd until today, January 29th. And it did inform me, very diplomatically, that the payments would be issued on the January 31st paycheck and again in June. And that's fine, but we needed to know that. We're not mad about that, but we need to know. In all my careers, music business, ministry, event planning, and teaching, complete and proper communication was and is highly valued. We knew in those jobs that you wouldn't be successful or survive if communication was poor or missing. We would hope it'd be the same for all of our central office employees, though I would note that many employees do respond quickly, and we appreciate that. So I have two suggestions here from teachers, MCA, two suggestions for our administration, which are common principles and operational functions at institutions and corporations. And we fit into one of those categories as a school system or an institution. Please send out communication. We're not always informed on matters that relate to our employment and to our work. We should be. This isn't hard to do. In fact, time would be saved for all parties if communication was timely. We wouldn't have to place callbacks. We wouldn't be on hold. We wouldn't have to send an email. It would save a lot of time. It's a time saver. Second, if a person in central office can't respond right away, we understand. There are a lot of emails. However, courtesy dictates that one respond with such phrases as, "Let me find out," or "I will get back with you," or "I have forwarded your concern to the correct person." That is standard business protocol. We expect no less from our central office. I know on our end, we as educators are expected to provide rather quick responses to our principals and to central office emails and calls. We would like to see this as consistent behavior in our central office as well. I would also like Mr. Orman to come up and address an issue as well, too. All right? Thank you.
Good evening. This is a request to all of you as a request from the teaching faculty of the entire county. We would like to ask that we all please work together to do everything in our power to ensure that there are no major changes in personnel or policy for the remaining school year. We have been caught in a revolving door of chaos and change for almost 3 years. Numerous programs and policies have been mandated in quick succession without what we feel is sufficient training or practice time for the teachers. In general, the chaos that I'm speaking of revolves around computer programs which have not produced the results which they promised, unexpected and disruptive personnel changes, continued problems with the management of salary and benefits, threats, either real or perceived, insinuations that money for positions might run out, but that the responsibility for that workload would go on as usual without pay, going from 4 to 7 periods, which, though you may not realize it, has doubled the workload for high school teachers, changes in disciplinary policy, cell phone use, which has caused problems in middle and high schools, which to some of us seems like nobody takes seriously, and the constant reminder that during this time our overall test scores, no matter how hard we've tried to work and cooperate, have gone down instead of up for the first time ever. Furthermore, the constant reminder of college and career readiness professed over and over again, while our policies of endless retakes and badgering people who are almost grown to please do their work and please live up to their responsibility, prepares them for neither college nor career. It's so frustrating for teachers to know that this kind of training of constant redo and endless chances will not be the reality in the adult world, yet we are training them to expect it in college and on the job. You have no idea the calls and personal conversations that have begun to take place this year relative to teachers seeking positions in other school systems, or worse yet, planning to leave our profession entirely. We as a county do not hold the position of respect which we once did. Teachers in other counties do not look to us as a desirable place to work, as has been the case in the past. Those of us who are not planning a career change honestly fear a shortage of teachers in the next year to 3 years. The Tennessee Education Association predicts a severe shortage of teachers in Tennessee and across the country in the coming years, and the problems which we have had, along with bad press from other incidents, will not prove an asset or a drawing card to the teachers who may be available in the years to come. No teacher in this county has implied an unwillingness to work or an inability to cooperate with whatever is asked of us. That's not the case at all. What we are asking is that the previously unprovided space and time to absorb the tremendous number of new requirements which have been thrust upon us and our students as a result of a shift from research-based education to theory-based education be allowed. We haven't brought these things to your attention out of any kind of ill will or malice toward anyone. We are trying to bring this as an authentic concern which we see as vital to the morale and the future of Maury County Public Schools. Therefore, let me state again, our request is that you all try to work together to ensure that there be no major changes in personnel or policy for the remaining school year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Orman.
Ms.
Next-
Morency,
Excuse me?
if I could address some of those comments.
All right.
I just want to say, Mr. Orman and Mr. Hubner, the concerns that you all are raising do not fall on deaf ears. And I think it is good. I think it's healthy to have communication and feedback, and that's what we're all in this together. At the end of the day, I think teachers, the board, administration all have the same goal in mind, is to try to figure out what is best for the students and how can we improve things for the students. Along the spirit of communication and feedback, I did also want to provide a little bit of feedback to our teachers union. I know that recently we received an email that came directly to board members regarding some concerns, and that's legitimate to share those concerns with us. But one of the items in the email that we received actually referred to one of the initiatives of this board, the 7 Keys, as being a gimmick. And that's one thing that I wanted to give some feedback on. And maybe, it may have been just taken out of context or maybe just a poor use of words. But as far as the 7 Keys, those are some real, I know they're lofty goals. We want, by, I think, key number 1, by the end of 3rd grade, we want our students to be reading at grade level. That seems to be a reasonable objective for us as a district to have. And in fact, we as a school board have actually adopted those things as part of our strategic plan. So this board is completely on board with trying to reach those goals. What I would encourage is that we have a dialogue and a cooperative process to try to meet those goals. Because at the end of the day, it's ultimately in the best interest of the children. So I do appreciate the feedback, and I hope you all can also appreciate the feedback from me as a board member, and we're all working in this together as a team. So thank you.
The next thing on the agenda is public delegations, and if you can bring me the sign-up sheet, someone please. And in the meantime, Stephanie Bloodsaw is already signed up as a first speaker, if she'll come forward. We give you 5 minutes. You only speak on some topic that is on the agenda if you'll state your name and your address as you come forward. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Bloodsaw. My address is 4000 Cadence Drive, Spring Hill. And I'm here because I would like to ask the board to consider reinstating me as an English language learner teacher. And I'm appealing to you all because the letter came from Dr. Marzak, and there was no one else to appeal to. And when I look at the board policy associated with assignments and transfers, it says that the assignment shall be determined by the applicant's training, experience, and ability to perform the duties of the positions in the best interest of the schools. And right now, I have been transferred to Woodard to teach 4th grade. And I've been an ELL teacher for 11 years in the district, and the last time I taught was a classroom teacher. Bill Clinton was the president. And I think I'm better qualified as an ELL teacher. My certification is based on a Master's of Arts, teaching English to second language learners. And when I did try to reach out to Dr. Marzak, who referred me to Amanda Alexander, I tried several times, but no one would give me an answer other than in the best interest of the schools. And it is difficult for me because my neurologist placed me on medical leave on March 9th, and she extended my medical leave twice. And while I was home on medical leave, I received a letter reassigning me and transferring me. So 2 things happened. And I just would like to read what my neurologist said when she sent it to HR. Prior to being placed on medical leave, work accommodations had been previously submitted to her employer. Those accommodations requests were based on Stephanie Bloodsaw's functional limitations and restrictions. Stephanie Bloodsaw's symptoms are exacerbated by sitting, standing, walking, and bending. Therefore, no prolonged performances of those activities. Due to Stephanie Bloodsaw's neurological conditions, she is subject to intermittent flare-ups, which may result in excessive absences. The flexibility associated with her former position as an English language learner teacher is more conducive for improved medical conditions and work attendance, as opposed to the requirements associated with her being a classroom teacher. And it's not only fair, it's not fair to me, and it's not fair to the students. And I'm not familiar with the 4th grade curriculum. And ELL curriculum I am, and the 4th grade standards. And like I said, I couldn't get a response from HR. So now I'm here requesting assistance to be replaced as an ELL teacher, reinstated as an ELL teacher.
Ms. Bledsoe, unfortunately, we don't have any jurisdiction over personnel. We do make policy. We do work on budgets and funding. The only personnel that we have any control of is Dr. Marzak.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would suggest to you that you make an appointment with Dr. Woodard, who is, deals with those kind of personnel issues. Am I correct? That he would be the person you would speak to.
The reason I came is because board policy, based on board policy, it contradicts what actually happened to me. Still, okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sue Stevenson.
Good evening. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Marzak. My name is Sue Stevenson, and I represent District 6 on the north end of Murray County. I know that you're not taking any action tonight. I know that you're not voting on, I'm here to speak about the Spring Hill edition. And I know you're not taking any action or voting on that this evening. But I wanted to address the board, and I believe there are others who have taken the time to come here this evening to speak to you about it as well. About concerns about Spring Hill High School. Last July, and it was actually July 13th, if you recall, it was my anniversary, so I asked if I could speak first so that I could go meet my husband for dinner. So last July, I came before you to speak about my concerns regarding Spring Hill High School. And I clearly communicated to you about the explosive growth and development in the northern part of the county. And I recall saying that we will be hit with a tsunami of students moving into this area, in addition to the students that will transition from the feeder schools to the high schools. Spring Hill High School is not anywhere near ready for that explosive growth and does not have the capacity it needs to accommodate the students. The school is very visible, sits on the main corridor coming into the cities of Spring Hill, Columbia, and Murray County. In just 6 months, there will be a general election that will completely change both the composition of the school board and the county commission. Typically, new board members and commissioners will be very conservative, as they all go through a significant learning curve that typically takes the first couple of years to acclimate to. Right now, we have great momentum. The board and the commission have worked closely together, and we have made unprecedented improvements and investments to the Murray County school system and infrastructure. You need to take advantage of that current momentum. In less than 4 years, the County Commission has already appropriated to Murray County Public Schools over $136 million. $65 million for a new elementary and middle school, $50 million by the time we pay the interest for a new central high school, $16 million designated for repairs to existing schools, and $5 million for acquiring land and plans and fees and so forth for the 2 new schools. Part of the $16 million, the school board used for the Marvin Wright expansion. The County Commission has been very generous, and I think we have worked well together, and I think we've made a lot of progress. Back in September or October, the County Commission recognized and expressed the need to take action on Spring Hill High School, as we could see that Spring Hill cannot wait another 5 years before initiating much-needed renovations and expansions. And that desire and momentum is palpable today, but it won't last forever. If we do not take action now to appropriate these monies that are needed for this school, it will likely not happen for a number of years to come. And you will literally have students in the school system that we are not prepared for and that we will not be able to accommodate. We need to act now. The County Commission is waiting in the wings right now for your decision. This is not a competition. This is not a demonstration of trying to keep up with the Joneses. We must act now to get Spring Hill High School to where it needs to be to accommodate 1,800 students. That's where the crux of this lies. It's numbers that we're concerned about, not trying to keep up with Central High School, but to accommodate the numbers that we are seeing now and that we're going to see shortly. We need to completely commit to Spring Hill and get it all done. We don't have the time to parcel it out. We don't have the time to go into phases. We risk losing the momentum of both the school board and the commission if we don't act quickly. And things will change completely, as I said, with the composition of both come August. Another very important point is that getting Spring Hill into shape, it needs to be, if we get it into the shape that it needs to be in, we can actually push back the new high school project for a few more years. That allows us to focus on the needs of other schools, and most importantly, we will have 2 premier high schools ready to focus on education and learning. As a former educator, I can tell you that the learning environment does make a difference. Spring Hill High School administrators, faculty, staff, students, and parents have just as much pride in their school as the pride we all saw demonstrated at the Central High School open house on January 21st. I've spoken to Hewlett Spencer, to Mr. Breeden, and others. I've presented you with a copy of an amended outline on Spring Hill High School that you were initially given that had a $17 million estimation. Some additional figures will have to be calculated. The asterisks denote new items that were not seen on your original. Let's get this done, and let's do it right and do it while the momentum prevails. To delay will accomplish nothing, and even with the proposed redistricting, Spring Hill High School will remain at maximum capacity. Do we really want to be in a position where we would have no choice but to encourage families and students to build their homes or purchase their homes in another surrounding county because we were not ready, we were not prepared, and we cannot accommodate their children or provide their education? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevenson. Megan Williams.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Williams, and I'm here to talk about what we need a budget in the Spring Hill High School. The cafeteria, not only I, but many students at Spring Hill have to sit on the floor due to lack of tables and space in the cafeteria. The auditorium is too small for us to do anything with because I'm a band member and a drama club member, and there's lack of space on the stage and seats for the audience. The band directors have to be really careful not to fall off the stage while conducting because of the band being so big. So far this year we have used the stage 4 times for band and drama club rehearsals in the auditorium closer to show nights. The drama club holds 2 productions a year, and you never know if we will have enough seats or if people will have to stand. We also have to split the band 3 times so that they fit on the stage. The library, the computer systems are so old in the library that it takes forever to find what we need. Considering the price of computers have dropped dramatically over the last couple of years, it seems a little unreasonable to think that we cannot get new systems in the library for a reasonable cost. The mold, many students have health problems, including asthma and allergies, and are affected by the mold because of it. Thank you.
Emma Woodard.
Hello, school board. Oh, God.
Hello.
I'm here to add on to what Ms. Williams said. From a student's perspective, I'm not going to use big words or stuff like that, but I also have to sit on the floor during lunch, and most of the juniors, even though like half of them go off-campus lunch, and they go to like Burger King or McDonald's or something like that, pretty much like 3/4 of 2 grades, not all 4 grades, have to sit on the floor because there's only like 25 tables, and the freshman class is so big this year that even in the gym, some students have to stand, and it's just chaos, and there's so many students, and A friend of mine told me that a couple of you think that we don't deserve the expansions, and I'm just here to say, I'm sure all of you, most of you have children. Am I correct? Am I correct? Do they have to earn or deserve food or water or clothing or shelter? What's going on? It's sort of like the expansions is our food and water. It's not a want. If you come to our school and see how cramped it is and how much we have to go through, you'll think that this is a need, and we're not just saying it because we're spoiled or something like that. And I'm not trying to offend anyone on the board. It's just that it's kind of a little messed up that people think that, oh, we're in Spring Hill, we don't need it, and stuff like that. And I'm just saying that we just need like a little more space in the cafeteria and the auditorium so nobody has to stand for like 2 hours to watch a play or an hour to listen to our band's concerts. And people shouldn't have to sit on the floor every single day to eat their lunch. And people shouldn't have to sit on the floors in classrooms because we don't have enough space for them to sit, and our classrooms aren't big enough for us to put more desks in it. And also, we can't get new books, like updated textbooks, if we don't have enough shelves in the library to put them on there, because right now pretty much all of our textbooks are on the floor because we don't have enough space for them or for new computers, and half the computers don't work for us, so we have to wait for somebody to get done in order to pursue our education, and we shouldn't have to do that. Thank you.
Jason Sloan.
Thank you, board and citizens, for coming tonight. I have with me Bo Moss and Jason Trillian, and they are the coaches of the Spring Hill High School wrestling team. We're currently in the inaugural season. And I'm a parent. Again, my name's Jason Sloan. I've lived at 1746 Bear Creek Pike since 1990. And I came to Tennessee with 3 boys, and we had 2 kids after we moved here, and we run 5 kids through Spring Hill High. And I worked for a company called Hardaway Construction. And one day the superintendent gave me a ride over up north on 31, and we took a left back behind the fire department. He said, right here's our next job. We're going to build Spring Hill High School. That was when Spring Hill had 2 lights in town and 1 grocery store. So it's changed in a little over a quarter of a century to what we see today. The mecca of shopping and whatnot, places to go eat. There's a couple of things about the building. The facility's antiquated. The short-term, idea is the additions needed for the band, and we'd like to be involved in the thought process for the additions, the wrestling team. The long-term, a big question mark, I guess. Is there a new school in the future? Who knows? There's damage to the floor in the small gym, and that's 75% of the time we use a small gym. There's not a conflict with other groups to use it. There was a roof leak, and it's nastied up a corner of the gym, and I've been involved for not quite a year with the wrestling and the school as a volunteer, and nobody's done anything about the floor. So I don't know if it's just out of sight, out of mind, why that floor's. Now, we have other schools coming to wrestle. As a matter of fact, tomorrow evening, you're all invited. There's a match around 4:30, 5 o'clock, Spring Hill High School. There's 2 other teams coming, I believe. So it's really exciting. If you haven't seen a wrestling match, it's great. We've been in the newspaper. There's 4 of our kids won this last Saturday at a tournament in Nolensville, and they're novice wrestlers, brand new. The space availability, we work out, sometimes we haul the mats through a door no bigger than that door on the outside of this building and go take them down the hall and over to the cafeteria and set them up kind of in a hallway spot or in the cafeteria itself and move the tables and chairs out. Of course, we're losing valuable time that we have with those kids to teach them how to wrestle, moving mats. Every mat gets rolled up at the end of the day. It'd be nice, of course, not necessary, but nice if we had a room that the mat stays down and we don't have to fool around with rolling it up and spending our little bit of time we have with those kids doing that. And that's about it. I think I'm done, and I think my 5 minutes is up. So if you got time tomorrow evening, come to Spring Hill and watch some wrestling. Thank you.
Crystal Williams.
My name is Crystal Williams. I live at 205 Osage Trail in Columbia. Good evening. I have been dealing with the growing concerns of overcrowding at Spring Hill High School for the last 4 years, as my oldest just graduated last May. I still have 2 girls at the high school, and I'm really concerned with the way things are going. The serving area and cafeteria are way too small. A large number of students are sitting on the floor every day to eat. I know this for a fact, as my daughter is one of them. There are several days that neither of my daughters get through the lunch line because it's moving so slow and they have to get to their next class. I do not see this as being acceptable. I heard someone say at the last workshop that the auditorium has never been filled and is hardly ever used. I spend a lot of time every week in the auditorium. The band has already used it 4 times this year for concerts, and drama uses it daily for rehearsals. We have several concerts already scheduled for the spring, and before you suggest it, no, we cannot use the gym. We have asked. The gym is being used for other clubs and sports, so we cannot use it. We have had to split the band into 3 groups and have concerts on separate nights in order to accommodate all the kids. When the kids are on stage performing, someone has to sit behind the band directors to make sure they don't fall off the stage. We do not have enough room for the students and parents to sit in the auditorium during concerts. When we do have a concert, all the curtains are open, the kids are pushed to the back wall, and all the drama stuff is in plain sight with the brick walls. This does not look good for anybody. The classrooms are too full. With the amount of kids coming in over the next couple of years, this board is asking for trouble not going ahead and getting them added now. Spring Hill is expanding, and those kids are going to be coming into the high school. To my knowledge, we have 245 seniors graduating in May, 222 8th graders coming from Spring Hill Middle alone, and 67 coming from Cox. That right there is going to put us at our 1,200 max. If we have anybody else moving to the area or anybody else out of zone, we will be over capacity. Thank you.
Heather Stetton.
Hello, good evening. I just wanted to say, as a parent, I just wanted to express my concern. I have a son who is a junior, and it sounds to me everybody has something they need. all the teachers, the students in the band, drama, whatever you're in, there's not enough room. So something has to be done. I know there needs to be money in order to build a new school, and that takes time. We have so much to do here. My son is in the engineering program. There's not enough room. So I think that you guys are all getting the consensus that no matter what it is, there's not enough room. STEM is a big part of the county now. And I know you guys are really trying to implement that for the students. It's hard to do when you're juggling every year and putting these kids in different rooms, different teachers constantly. It's got to be consistency. These kids can't have non-consistency because it screws them up. They don't know if they're coming or going and what classroom to go to. It's too hard for them. They're still kids. We're trying to make them adults, but they're still kids. The last point I would like to make is that bricks do not teach. Teachers and staff teach. However, when they're having issues, how do they help our kids? They're trying to do the best they can with what they do have. So let's try to give them what they need to be able to, for our kids to feel consistent and know that it's going to be okay, they have room, they don't have to juggle all year long, one room to the next. When one semester's over, am I going to go back to that class? I hope that we can all figure out a good way that will bring all that together. Personally, I think a new school would be the best option. Unfortunately, we can't just make that happen. So I hope that we can resolve that issue. I just would like you to know that the inconsistency of the room placements and not knowing what they're doing from day to day and having to move from maybe one gym or to the other and there's no sense of direction because a lot of times the teachers don't know until the last minute. Not their fault always, but the kids can't follow them if they don't know. Thank you.
Sebastian Stetton.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sebastian Stetton. I'm a junior at Spring Hill High School, and for the past 3 years, I've been in the CTE engineering classes. For all 3 of those years, I've been in a different room. And I understand, and I've been told many times, that CTE is a very growing field. And I understand with growth comes confusion and sometimes mess to straighten things out. I've had 3 different teachers, and they have all been wonderful, but they've had to work with very limited resources. In fact, I was put in a principles of manufacturing class because there was not enough room in an engineering field. I, however, did get the engineering credit, but was not taught the engineering standards. I am now currently in what was the senior cafeteria, which I feel is a suitable place for now, and we've had growing equipment in that room, and that room cannot sustain that equipment. And we're trying to work with the best we have, and my current teacher, Mr. Dale Long, has done the best he could, but we need a new expansion. We need a room that is suitable. And we've currently did not, until I would say 2 to 3 weeks ago, have a Wi-Fi router in that room. The communication was terrible, and considering that we use Wi-Fi on a daily basis for our classes, that hampered our studying by a lot. And currently we do not have a speaker in that room, a communication speaker. And any time that we have announcements, we can rarely ever hear them. And some students may say that announcements are not necessarily important, but for me, I would say that announcements are one of the most important and vital ways to communicate to students. And that is why I propose that you look into taking some of the additional fund into CTE engineering. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. James Grossheim?
Good evening. My name is James Grossheim. I live at 1488 Center Star Road. I have a letter here from one of my teachers, Miss Lori K. Burns. She's a theater teacher and the director of the after-school theater program for Spring Hill High School. Thank you for allowing the president of the drama club, James Grossheim, to present this letter to you. I am afraid that I have the flu and cannot be here as I planned this evening. I sincerely appreciate this board's consideration for the expansion of Spring Hill High School. In my 11 years at the school, I have seen it grow tremendously, and in growth I have also seen problems. Lunchtime is a significant issue. Last year, we tried having students eat in various places in the building because of lack of space in the cafeteria. Unfortunately, it did not always work well. We have gone to 2 lunches with more success this year, but still some of the same issues. Kids are having limited time to eat because of long lines, and it is not easy for them to find seats. With the growth we are expecting in the next few years, this will continue to be a problem for our students. The growth proposal for this expansion will move the cafeteria into the auditorium. Now, the auditorium expansion. What a gift this would be to my program, the band program, athletics that use it for banquets, JROTC that uses it for their programs, the community, and all our future generations of students. Through the years, I have been a volunteer with the theater program at the school. I have never been paid a supplement. It has been one of the best things in my life to be with the hundreds of young people that have walked through those auditorium doors. It is amazing to see how this program has grown through my own hard work and the hard work and dedication of my wonderful students. We started with $11 in our account, and we did a massive amount of fundraising my first year. Surprisingly, we could do 2 shows that year. And through all the years, it has been my students' hard work with one fundraiser and lots of ticket sales that we are still able to maintain this program without any funding. Currently, we do 2 full-scale shows per year, the Theater 2 and 3 Showcase, an annual SHHS talent show, and much more. We need adequate space to continue doing the wonderful things these young people accomplish, and we need a large area to help showcase their talent. The Drama Club represents over 4% of our current student body. Our current auditorium is in bad shape. We recently had our roof fixed after numerous years of significant leaks. We have had up to 11 at a time. It's interesting to see kids rehearse around trash cans and buckets. Kids have had to have mops out during shows if it rained so they would not slip. Our grand drape is dry rotting and pulling from the grommets due to age and the excessive moisture on them. If you come to our shows, you see us using a large piece of Velcro to hold them closed, and we are horribly afraid when we open and close them to see if they will work. Our speaker system does not work correctly. The amps housed upstairs have either been damaged or are very old. They are only running one channel. The mic jacks in the front that run under the stage do not always work. When our kids do have musicals, we have to rent or borrow speakers for them to use. We have limited space in our dressing rooms for up to 50 kids to get dressed during shows. And we have absolutely no storage space, even though my students have purchased 2 small storage barns with their own money over the years. Both barns are packed. And we store our costumes in bins and cabinets in the back of the auditorium. Recently, we required lots of black sheets so we can cover all the bins so that they are not the horrible eyesore for the band performances. We also need new steps coming up and down the stage. We have been using the band's risers for years, and they're getting worn out. Also, due to all the leaks, the current tiles on the floor are coming up and often crumbling. We desperately need a wooden floor where we can secure the set into it. All of our sets and scenery pieces are weighted with a large quantity of tractor weights and sandbags so they will not fall down. But all it would take is a good wallop from a scenery piece or a kid out of place, and it could fall. As you can see, these are a few of the needs that we all have in our program. The expansion proposed would be such a gift to the Spring Hill High School students. It would address so many needs our entire school has. Thank you for allowing James to share this with you. I want to thank you for your consideration in helping the students of Spring Hill High School attending today and for those yet to come. Sincerely, Lori K. Burns. My name is James Grossheim. I'm a senior at the Spring Hill High School, and I'm president of the Spring Hill High School Drama Club. The theater program at Spring Hill has been part of my family for years. My brother was among Miss Burns' first students when she arrived 11 years ago, and she's been a member of my family and a member of my family has been associated with the program ever since. I myself am currently involved in my 10th production with the program, and so I have seen firsthand the effects of age on our current auditorium. As Ms. Burns wrote, among other things, our grand drape needs replaced, and our speaker system does not work as it should. Our backstage area is so small that at times we must move large set pieces around tight corners, and in large productions with many actors, we just have a few square feet in our tiny dressing rooms to change costumes. The theater program has been such a gift to me, my siblings, and so many others who have been welcomed with open arms. The program has grown tremendously in the past 11 years, and I know it will continue to do so, if only it is given room to grow. We need this addition for the program to continue to flourish. On behalf of Ms. Burns and the Spring Hill High School Drama Club, I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Melody Morse.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melody Morse. I've been a part of the Spring Hill High School's theater program for 3 years now. I'm a junior. So it's been really fun. But since then, it's been one of the greatest joys of my life. And doing theater has become something that I'd even want to pursue outside of high school. I've seen so many people come through our drama department, and I've been lucky enough to be a part of so many of the outstanding productions that we put on. We see so much talent every year, and it's only natural to have an environment for that talent to grow and to flourish. Not only am I a theater kid, but I've also been a part of the school's band for 3 years now. In much of the auditorium, the use is frequent for the auditorium, and much of the school's programs rely on it for meetings, concerts, and special events. It's imperative that we have a new auditorium to accommodate all these groups of children coming in the next few years. Not only that, but new generations of students could have a place to express themselves and to make memories, whether it be in a play or performing in a concert. The theater department has managed to put on college-quality performances despite all the setbacks of our old auditorium. It hasn't been easy, though. Just as James said, there's overcrowding and low-quality sound systems. There's concrete flooring where there should be wooden flooring right now, and that's been a very big problem for us lately. Our equipment is very outdated, and it hardly satisfies the growing population we have coming up. With all this in consideration, it is easy to see how the conditions could be unfit for most of us. But these problems can be fixed with the addition of a newer and more adequate auditorium. I want to see my school's art programs thrive, and this new auditorium is a necessity that's just been put off for far too long. So on behalf of me and the theater arts students, I do ask for your serious consideration towards our need for a new school auditorium. It'll greatly strengthen our programs, and we will be investing in the next generation of students. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Grossheim.
Good evening. My name is Emily Grossheim. I live at 1488 Center Star Road in Columbia. I'm a freshman at Spring Hill High School, and I am involved in the theater program. I'm here to talk to you about expanding our auditorium and cafeteria. Our auditorium is a multi-purpose room. It has been used for awards ceremonies, ISAS, sports meetings, concert band performances, percussion ensembles, choir performances, parent meetings, student orientations, talent shows, and theater performances. I am in the theater program. We have 2 productions per year, and we would really appreciate a new auditorium because our current one is not large enough to accommodate large school assemblies. And a problem that actors have been facing backstage are too small of dressing rooms and even a sewage problem in the bathroom. Our cafeteria is also too small to accommodate large student body. Some students have to sit on the floor to eat their lunch. I urge you to expand our auditorium and cafeteria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Wally Beasley.
Madam Chairman, members of the school board, Dr. Marzak, Wally Beasley, French teacher at Spring Hill High School. I reside at 902 Mercer Court in Columbia. Many of our students have spoken very eloquently about the problems at the school and the crowding, the auditorium. I think it was Joe Grossheim mentioned the steps. Every time I walk up the steps, you know, they move, and I'm always a little tentative myself. And then we've had award ceremonies, and I watch young ladies in heels go up them, and I hold my breath every time I watch them go up and go down, because I know what it's like for me with the flat shoes. The cafeteria is very crowded, and of course our students spoke about the students sitting on the floor and so forth. We also have teachers on carts because there are not enough classrooms. And that gets to be very frustrating for them. Of course, we expect our students to be to class on time. And with our teachers that are on carts, instead of it being incumbent upon the students to be in class on time, it's incumbent upon the teacher to close out one class in one classroom in one part of the building, and then maybe get to the elevator to get upstairs to a whole different part of the building, pack up the things. Of course, they can't leave the previous classroom until the former students have left. Then getting to the new classroom is a challenge, and getting those students checked in. So it creates some problems. And actually, we lost a first-year teacher this year that was on a cart, and I really have no idea of the specifics, but I know her being on a cart was one cause of frustration. So, and I'm sure at least played some part in that. So that is something that we need more classrooms. Also, our school serves as a voting precinct for Spring Hill, that part of our county. And of course, ideally, they're coming during the daytime. Of course, classes are in session, so we might not use a section of the school that we might otherwise because it's being used by students, and we tend to crowd those voters into an area. And I always think that, you know, we really ought to be showing off the best of our school. We really ought to be showing what a great school it is. But yet we really don't have a space even for the voters of Murray County to come in and cast their votes for school board, county commission, and other offices. You know, I like to look at things from a practical standpoint. Of course, Spring Hill, by the very nature of the city, invites comparisons between our area and the adjoining area to the north. And I know one of the first things that realtors, one of the first questions they get asked is, you know, what school are you zoned to and so forth. And I can't think of anything that would benefit Murray County schools or Murray County in general any more than to present, you know, a beautiful school, a first-class facility, so that when those people are moving in this area, in the Spring Hill area, that they want to settle in Murray County. And I think that that would be a great benefit to our students and to our county in general. And I would just like to ask the board to consider budgeting a comprehensive expansion to Spring Hill High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. David Ryder.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'm here tonight to talk to you about the needs and additions to the already overpopulated Spring Hill High School. My name is David Ryder. I reside at 2820 Canary Court. I'm also an executive board member for the local 1853 UAW. I'm also the band booster president at Spring Hill High School. I cannot speak as eloquent as most of these kids that are younger than me have presented you today. However, Murray County continues to grow at an unexpected rate. According to springhill.org, Murray County population in 2016, just for Spring Hill, was 9,954, compared to 8,155 in 2014. This is approximately a 22% increase in population. This is 2017, now 2018. This growth will continue. As GM continues to grow, so will the jobs, so will the homes in these communities. They will put students in Spring Hill High School. Whether you rezone or not, that's where they're moving. Murray County itself has already grown beyond projection for 2020. 2020, we were projected to grow to a population of 83,000, if I can find Murray here, that's great, 83,793. We are currently 84,000 plus. It's not 2020 yet. So we are growing at an unexpected rate. You as a school board are obligated to do everything in your power to ensure these children are educated the proper way. This rezoning plan only takes the problem and shifts it around. It does not address the fact that you will have a need for not only another high school, but additions to the existing high school. I've lived here for 27 years. I moved down here in 1990. I graduated Central High School. It was the greatest time of my life. Spring Hill was downtown. The reason I'm telling you this tonight is because, like someone said before me, he watched Spring Hill grow from 2 stoplights to what it is today. I'm not telling you this is going to become the next Nashville, but it will become very close. This area is booming. We need your help. To take no action is unacceptable. We need action. We need an auditorium. We need classrooms. We need help. Please, as a tax-paying member in this county, I'm asking you to help your students who will become board members just like yourself. What I want to leave you with tonight is something that's very, very important to me. The path you walk is never darker than the one you walk with your eyes shut. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Julia Boylan, is that correct? And Samantha Boersma, right?
Thank you and good evening. Madam Chairman, members of the board, first of all, thank you for being here and, happy Appreciation Day. We've all been swamping you with concerns about our school, but here we're going to give you a student's perspective of what it's like as seniors. We've been here for all 4 years, and we just want to let you in on some of the little secrets that Spring Hill has.
So I would first like to talk about the parking lot at Spring Hill High School. There's only one way in and out, and it takes, if you leave right at the bell, it takes 20 minutes to get out of the parking lot every day. And I have responsibilities I need to take care of at home, and I need to be able to get there in a timely manner. So that's a concern. And also, we have dual enrollment students who are going above and beyond in school. They're coming in at 9:30 with no place to park. They take teachers' parking spots. They make their own parking spots, which gets a little creative sometimes. And we even have the baseball players parking by the field. So I would really like an expansion of the parking lot.
In addition to this, you have heard a lot about classrooms being overcrowded, and as the class president of Student Council, we agree with this wholeheartedly because we store all of our stuff in our classroom, actually my physics teacher's classroom. We don't have a storage closet anymore because it was taken over by a teacher, and this new addition, this new wing, would greatly help storage as well as classrooms.
Behind my house, they're putting in 1,100 new houses. With this growing population of students and teachers, the school we have now does not support the growing numbers. The new wing would provide more classrooms and plenty of space for storage, teaching facilities, and we would I don't know what
We
to
would
say.
greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm currently in economics, and I am learning the differences between needs and wants. and this is going to be very helpful when I get to college. And I know now that it does not take a degree to see that the need of our students is greater than a want, and it needs to be done quickly so that way the future generations can have the benefits that I have had. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. C.L. Sullivan.
Thank you. My name is C.L. Sullivan, and I live at 1652 Wellington Drive in Columbia. And I noticed at the last work session, I was reading some of the notes, and I saw that you guys are going to vote tonight upon this the raise. It's not a raise. You already get what the commission gets now. But I'm concerned about what the language says, that most of you people, or some of you people, are business people, I'm sure, and I'm thinking, why would you put language in there that's going to give you a raise if another group of people get a raise? I think every raise you should get should be based upon performance and not based upon what another group gets. I think it really is, I just never seen anything like it. I don't think you guys, if you had a worker and another company gave their people a raise, that you would automatically have to give your person a raise. So I just think you really need to consider the language and how it looks to the public. Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Sullivan, I don't know that you're aware, but we used to meet in committee, and we're paid for all those committees. Now we meet in work sessions so that it's only one. So we really are paying ourselves less than before that language was put in there. So we actually are making all of the committees as one meeting instead of 3 or 4 for which you'd be paid for.
Yes.
So it's costing you taxpayers much less.
Yes, and we just went through that with Murray County Commission. One of the commissioners there wanted to get a 150% raise, and gave the same reasons, that they would give they would have less meetings for more money. And I thought, okay, that's a good deal for the public. And so thank goodness they voted the thing down, because it was like a 150% increase. And so you guys would have automatically fell in, and you would have gotten the same raise with this language you're using now. And if it goes the other way, which at one point during the commission meeting, one of the commissioners wanted to, he made I don't think what you call it, but anyway, they wanted to stop all the money. Now, what would you guys do if they have an issue where they cut back? Is that what's going to happen to you guys? Or are you going to stay, you're saying whatever they get? So,
Mr. Sullivan, I was just going to give you some information about it, and thank you so much. Amber Sandvig, am I saying that right? Sandvig. Okay.
Hello, my name is Amber, and I am a sophomore at Spring Hill High School. Now, first off, I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you, because I am vice president of Skills USA at my high school, and I know how hard it is to come here and listen to all these students and make the agendas and look at the budget. It is difficult, and I wish I was wearing my red blazer so I could come up here and talk to all of you looking like a lobster. I'm not gonna lie, it would please me a lot to do so. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing my red blazer. Sorry, I'm disappointed. But I'm here for 2 reasons. The first reason is because I want to talk on a subject that I feel is highly important regarding Spring Hill High School. And the second is because I'm trying to practice my public speaking, because I am running. I am. So I'm running for Skills USA State Officer, and I do have to give a campaign speech in front of about 2,000 people. So I'm practicing now. I'm not going to say I'm necessarily speaking for a certain department in Spring Hill High School. But I will tell you I am speaking on behalf of the entire student body. Obviously, I do agree with the fact that we need to expand the cafeteria. There are people sitting on the floor, and I feel really bad for those people. I have given up my seat for those people because I feel bad. I do agree with the fact that we need to expand our library, and I feel that this is important not only so we can put the books on the shelves, but so we can expand our technology with computers, because obviously, as you know, technology is always changing, and we are starting to take tests more often on computers. In fact, this year, I believe the exams are on the computer, so we kind of need to know how to take those. Hall extensions and buildings. I know this is pretty important, at least to me, because I feel like it will help the CTE department a lot. I feel like it's kind of all over the place in our high school as it is, and having that extension would help it to become more organized and would help with the full potential that the CTE department programs do have. I am in engineering. I am in the engineering division of Skills USA. So I do agree with the fact that we don't necessarily have enough space to do what we can potentially do. And I feel like that is the same way for JROTC and the other CTE programs as well. I feel that we need a new parking lot, and I know I don't drive. So I can't speak on behalf of that. But I can say I feel that we need a new parking lot because the buses are crowded, and I feel if more people could drive in, then the buses would become slightly less crowded. So I feel like overall, it would help a lot. I guess one thing I want all of you to take away from this today, if it's only one point you take away, is that I understand that there is a large population growth. And rezoning, it is a solution. And I understand that. But it's only a temporary solution to an ongoing problem that will keep staying there. And unless you do something, unless you take action, unless you actually expand and fix it now, it's going to stay around. And you're going to keep rezoning, and you're just going to find that this is ultimately probably one of the best solutions for the time being. So, thank you for letting me present.
Thank you, Amber. Tommy Foster.
Hello. Hey. My name is Tommy Foster. I'm a freshman at Spring Hill High School. So.
And I'm his dad.
So, the auditorium. The stage is pretty small. In our last play, we had a very big set piece, and we would have had the option to spin it if the stage was a little bit bigger. And the cafeteria. I, for one, have only done this once because I know how long it takes. I stood in line for the whole lunch period of about an hour before Spring Hill High School had changed the hours to about 45 minutes for lunch. So I stood in line for an hour, couldn't get lunch. I went home starving because I couldn't get lunch. I was still in the line when the bell rang, and I had to go to my next class. So, that being said, I also like to cook. And with this new cafeteria, that would offer Spring Hill High School an opportunity to teach a culinary class. So, that's my thing, so I'm gonna hand it off to my dad.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. I represent one of the new Spring Hill residents. We just moved here in July. And we moved from Chicago, and I went to Chicago Public School. And I'm just gonna let that sink in for a minute. The school I went to had between 5,000 and 6,000 students. I don't know if you ever heard of Lane Technical High School. It was on 33 acres. Each wing was 1 city block long and 4 stories high. And at 6,000 students, that facility was too crowded. And I can tell you that when I first walked into Spring Hill High School, I was kind of shocked. I thought this can't be the size of the school for the amount of people that go there. And now as I assimilate myself into the community and I learn that, you know, Spring Hill continues to grow, 1,100 more homes, there's more people continuing to move in, the growth is parabolic, I guess, if you want to use a word. So I would strongly, strongly suggest that if it's in your power, you've heard all of the stories, they're all true. When I first went into the library, I saw the condition of the library. When I first saw the computer room, the fact that there wasn't any Wi-Fi in any of the classrooms yet, they were just starting to install it. From an outsider's point of view, and coming from a far inferior school system, the city of Chicago, again, I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. I think that we moved down here for more opportunity, and I think that you guys can do better. I think that the school that's there will be at capacity, it will be unsafe, and I think that if things can be done, they should be done. So, thank you.
Okay, John Jarensinski. Is that Sinski? Okay.
Hello, I am a freshman at Spring Hill High School, and surprisingly, I'm not in the drama or theater club, unlike most of the rest of the students here. But I just wanted to speak on behalf of I can't talk right now, but I'm in DECA. I'm going blank. Never mind. Oh man, I'm going blank. Okay. So walking through the hallways at the high school. Luckily, I'm tall because I can't imagine what some of my friends who are shorter see because I can't see anything. It's so crowded, I can hardly walk. It's like a herd of cattle trying to squeeze into a small gate getting into the stairway. Everything at this school is so outdated. I leaned against the desk this year, and this was in one of my teacher's classrooms. She's back there. I leaned against this desk. The desk fell through, and I fell over. Like, it's a safety issue. And it's a learning issue. And I think my family, who has been 3 generations at Spring Hill High School, deserves better, and who pay taxes for the school, they deserve better, and the future generations of Spring Hill deserve better. So I didn't really have much to say, but thank you.
Thank you. Ladarius Watson. Ladarius Watson. Brandon Jackson.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I'm here tonight to explain that I've grown up in the Spring Hill area. Grown up hunting and farming that land far before many of these people were here, along with a lot of you. My wife graduated from Spring Hill High School. I'm in favor of the addition at Spring Hill High School. But I would ask the board to vote no to the Spring Hill conceptual budget. It's time to stop spending for once when our county schools still have needs. It's time to budget around classrooms and curriculum, which our teachers still do not have. There are 3 schools in the county beyond repair. The Belmont study that was just released refers to those. Spring Hill has an auditorium with current needs, with the current needs in the county. Building a new auditorium should be deferred until zoning needs are met in a financially responsible way. Renovation, however, may be needed in their auditorium. This board has a responsibility to provide the educational needs of the community and support improvements as financing permits. There are needs across the county for improvements, which this money should be used for, along with the renovations around the rest of the school that the rest of these students have asked for. It's disappointing when you walk in a school and you see the floor falling apart. You go in the boys' locker room and the water won't run before a ball game so they can't wash their hands. I challenge every one of you to take the $100 million that we've incurred on new buildings and let's start looking at the other schools around this county. Every student in this county deserves to be able to wash their hands when they use the bathroom. Every student in this county deserves to walk across the floor without having to worry about tripping or falling over a pothole. I think that the renovations and additions at Spring Hill High School are a great thing, but we need to focus on what this county needs to educate our kids. And if it means fixing up an auditorium and building a new classroom, maybe that's where we need to focus our attention. We've gotten way off track, guys. I challenge every one of you to take a step back, go home tonight and think about, what am I doing on this board? Why did I get on this board? Did I get on this board just to build new buildings, or did I get for a certain area or a certain location? Or am I looking at every school? Am I going around and am I visiting these schools? Am I walking in the bathrooms and seeing what these kids walk in? I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm friends with a lot of you all. There's a lot of things going on with this entire school board, and I appreciate the jobs you do, but there's a lot of things that we need to do a wake-up call on. Our teachers need curriculum. We're gonna give our teachers all of this curriculum and focus on these certain keys and these certain curriculum, but yet they don't have anything to work from. And guess what? Now you've got a teacher buying their own curriculum over here and their own curriculum over here. No kid in this county is getting the same education. So I will challenge every one of you to take a step back tonight. I'm all for improvements, but let's make sure we're making the best improvements, defer the ones that we can wait on, get everybody up to the same standard across this county, and let's educate these kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Evelyn Trammell.
Good evening. My name is Evelyn Trammell. I live at 775 Baker Road in Columbia. I'm proud to live in Columbia. I'm also proud to send my children to Spring Hill High School. I've had 3 children who have gone to this school so far. I have one more who in the next 3 years will be going there probably. I have seen the band grow. I'm a band mom. I'm also a drama mom, and I've also got a child in the engineering field. I do hope that you would consider, as you're looking at all of the needs for all of the schools, renovations that would be needed to be made. We do want all the children in our county to be getting a good education. As a band parent, though, I thought I'd give you my perspective. 6 years ago when my son was a freshman, the band was, 72 kids. It's now about 135. So it's really outgrown their small space for, they work around it. They find different ways for everybody to get their practice time. This past Christmas, I wasn't sure if I would be going to 2 concerts or not, since I have a freshman and a junior for Christmas concerts. One of which was conflicting with the city Christmas parade. That's just how it goes. So, and then I've got a child who's, my freshman is in the drama department and enjoying that and getting a lot from that. I would like to thank all of the teachers and the staff at Spring Hill High School. They do a wonderful job. I know that as a teacher, they have to sacrifice and give of themselves, and that's part of the job, to provide them with a good education and good foundations. For the drama, the totes in the back, one Christmas, it was interesting. You could see all the different colors, so the black coverings do help to make it look more formal. But there's just not room for everybody to be on the stage, or even all of the bands to perform in one night. Maybe that's a minor detail compared to other issues, but it is an issue. And then my son, who has severe allergies and asthma, who we decided, well, three medicines a day for his allergies and asthma was better than not breathing. If there really is mold on the other side of the tiles, that's a health concern that, I don't know, I've not actually gone and looked at them, but it is a health concern. It's not good for anybody's health. And then my other son, who's on the engineering track, I asked him, you know, if you could have something in the engineering track, what would it be? It would be space and time to be able to work. And we know that's a competitive field. So I know you have a lot of things on your plate. I thank you for all of your work that you do on the board. I know that this is probably not on your top of things to involve yourselves in for School Board Appreciation Week, but we thank you for being here and doing your jobs, and I ask you to do consider that when you're looking at the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trammell. And thank all of you for your comments, especially the students. They did a great job. Ms. Potts, please let them know they did a really nice job. We're ready to move on for, is there anything with staff reporting? No? All right, consent items. Motion to approve A through I. Second. All right, there's a motion on the table to approve 7A through I. It's been seconded. Let's vote.
Shirley, make my notation, yes, please.
That motion did pass. Committee reports, the policy committee, we have final adoption of 1.206 board member compensation. The motion by Mr. Bates to approve and the second by Mr. Pennings. Is there any discussion? Then let's vote. You got it on autopilot?
Shirley, again, could you make my notation yes, and I may have to turn my phone on to work from there.
Okay, and that motion did pass. Zoning and facilities, the next thing up is a quarterly review of GCA.
Madam Chairman, if I might speak to that, you had asked us when we presented this at the work session to bring back to you an RFP for custodial services, to consider putting that out for a new bid. There is one in your attached packet that I would call your attention to. And so I wanted to speak to that for just a few minutes if I could. We did put a cover letter in your packet, which I have here somewhere. I'm pretty sure.
You did.
All the stack of paper. It is in your packet, but I'm
Yes.
finding my notes on that. There is a copy of that in your packet. We did point out some features about that RFP, where there's been some things that would add some stipulations to that we don't currently have, to have some performance stipulations in there. There are stipulations that deal with, first of all, we're recommending that if you decide that you want to issue an RFP, that we would cancel our current contract effective May 31st and begin a new contract June 1st to allow deep cleaning and floor clear to take place during summer break. We also added these stipulations. There's one that says the contractor would have to use a time system to ensure hours committed to our counter work. They would report those to us each time they submitted a invoice, and that we would deduct $15 an hour for each hour per week that wasn't worked, according to the schedule that they'd given us for the schools. We also added stipulations like that we will do a regular inspection and to see if there's any duties that are not carried out. For instance, I sometimes get a call from a principal that something wasn't cleaned the night before. They would be given a certain amount of time to clean that. If it wasn't clean, then we would deduct a cleaning fee to get that area clean. There are also other penalties that could apply, including we have put in here that we would, if we did this RFP, we would actually issue it where that there would be an opportunity to have two vendors, either one vendor or two vendors for the district. We broke it into two zones. We said if there are two vendors, then if one vendor over a year scores below 85% on our scoring system on a school, we'd have the right to take that school and move it to the other vendor. So there's some of those kind of things. Also, it calls for a $300,000 performance bond that if we did have to, for any reason, cancel their contract and pick up their work, that bond could be called for that. It does give them opportunity if there's successful performance over a year, that possibility to waive that bond in the future. Also gives the right to consider a 1.5% increase per year in their contract if they can prove that it's warranted and if they've successfully met the terms of the contract. Now, these are some additional things that may impact cost. We don't know that, but we would recommend this. This is an RFP we copied from another school district, most of the things in Middle Tennessee. So we would, if you choose to do that, we would recommend following this. If you find that this RFP would be unacceptable, we actually included in the packet a quote from another company who actually specializes in custodial services, and they submitted a proposal to us that they would write an RFP. They would analyze our district needs and write an RFP for us for $9,800. So that's another option if you would want to go that route, to bring in a professional company that just specializes in custodial services and let them develop a proposal on what kind of needs we would have as a district. So we gave you those two options. I will tell you, though, that we contacted our current contractor, GCA Services. They are here. They have asked to speak. I told them they were not on the agenda, so that would be at your privilege whether you would want to allow them to speak or answer any questions for you before you make a decision how you'd want to move on this service.
I don't have a problem as long as they limit the time, since we've had so much on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
5 minutes.
I think Mr. Chris Thomas, who's their vice president, is the one who's going to speak. Maybe some other representatives are here with him.
Hello. We won't take up much of your time. We appreciate you guys allowing us to come and speak. Kyle Gribble and I'm Chris Thomas. I'm the director of operations for Tennessee. We came here about a year ago and spoke with y'all about what we have been doing and what we're going to be putting in place to improve the conditions. You guys set out probably about a year and a half ago. You did a self-audit And of course, our scores did not come back that great. And we took a look at that audit to see what we can do. We put out an increase to all of our employees to bring back some of that, some of the workers that we had here before, increase their wages. We took it from a wage of $8.50 up to a wage of $10.25 throughout Murray County, and that stabilized our workforce throughout, and we started to see our scores increase. I think you guys have been getting some of our scorecards from the district. We don't have anything to do with those scorecards. We used to go out and get them ourselves from the principals. We don't do any of that anymore. It's all audited by you guys now, and Stan and his team. Currently, we're at 81. So we started right at a 50% when you guys did that audit about a year and a half ago, and we've increased it to an 81%. And that's coming from feedback from your principals, your teachers, and everybody throughout the schools, and what we have done in the last year and a half to improve. GCA in the next 3 months is going to be phased out. GCA Services was bought out by ABM Services, and they are bringing in a new management style, new management over top that's going to help myself and Kyle take you guys to that next level with ABM coming in. They're a billion-dollar company, and we look forward to the help that they're going to be able to give us to improve your services throughout Murray County. So I want you to take a look at what you guys already currently have and the improvements that you have going forward currently with what you have in place right now. Going with a new RFP, that's probably going to find some higher prices with what you guys are doing in there. Addendums can be made to our current contracts to help you guys out with some of those costs that you might have to incur. We have spoke with Stan on taking on some of those addendums, and every year I think we take a look at everything for you guys and say, hey, if you don't like this, this is what we can do to kind of help you guys out and to move forward. So I like to take that into consideration with GCA Services and now ABM Services. And if you guys have any questions for myself or Kyle, we would take it right now if you guys have any.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will say, you know, we have seen some improvement with the results that we're getting back, but it's still not satisfactory for me as a board member. I'm wanting to have very clean facilities, and we're still getting some feedback that it's not satisfactory at all of our schools. But again, I do know that it looks like there has been some progress. There has been some improvement. Maybe this is the next step to get us to that level of where we're wanting to be, because I would think, and maybe Mr. Breeden could correct me if I'm wrong, but if we issue this RFP, this company could come in just like any other company. It could make another offer and make another proposal as to things. And so it doesn't mean that it's foreclosed, but I think for me as a board member, I kind of want to see what other options there are.
Understand.
And we may find that if we end up going with another company, we don't see that improvement that we're looking for. But it just seems like at some point we've got to try something different. But I do respect and appreciate the attention that you all have shown and some of the improvements that at least have been made. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Penning.
Well, you've been coming back, and I'm sorry to say you've been coming back for about 4 years now, 5 years, and you keep saying we're implementing this. We're going to increase the pay because we're going to do this. I've heard board members say, and I've heard some of your people say, well, maybe your expectations were too high. When we hired you as a cleaning company, my expectations were that you were going to clean the schools, keep the schools clean. I haven't seen it happen. I've seen some improvement, but very little improvement. When you asked us to give you a raise so you could raise your employees' wages, it was so you could get better help or get the job done better. We had 2 of your executives come here and say, well, we're going to take so many schools and he's going to take so many schools and we're going to go around every time and inspect them. I'm not a cleaning expert, sir, but I've been in most of the schools. And if they're experts on cleaning, I don't want to live in their house. I'm ready for a new company.
Mr. Moore?
Mr. Breeden, the RFP that you have, you feel confident that that's a good thing to put out? You feel confident that you could, 'cause I know it's adding some additional things and some burden on the staff, which we've talked about before. Is that a concern you got? Because I know you're going to have to kind of maintain.
Well, again, what we would have to do is we will have to depend upon our administrators at the schools
Okay.
to enforce this. This still will be heavily placed upon the school administrators to monitor this and to enforce it. It will still call for them to do regular inspections, for them to report to us any deficiencies.
Okay.
So we will be depending heavily on them for that. Again, we have heard a good report from how this was accepted in another school. We actually have talked to people that says that we actually borrowed from Wilson County Schools. They've not been into this for yet a year. I only had an opportunity to speak to their chief financial officer who oversees this, and he said that he felt like a successful. I do know that parts of this, though, are comparable to what Williamson County has written into their contract, and so and we've heard good reports from them. But again, we're just trying to borrow from somebody else because we just thought if there was a time to make a change in the accountability portion of that, now is the time to make it. We didn't have really the expertise on our staff to be able to write
Okay.
this, so that's why we borrowed someone else. That's why I gave you an option that if
All
you
right.
prefer to bring in an outside company to do that.
In that case, I would make a motion to approve this RFP.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Moore, seconded by Mr. Pennings. Is there any discussion?
Just for
Mr. Bates?
clarification, I guess that motion also includes the staff's recommended end date on our current contract. I think that was something else you needed, Mr. Breeden. A proposed end date.
Yes, sir. I'll yield to Mr. Wooliver if there's any comments on that, because he's also reviewed that. That would be, our thoughts would be, you're just about gonna have to have a change made to be able to get our summertime. Currently, we're on a 12-month annually renewable contract, which is actually set to be July 1 through June 30th. So we'd be talking about backing that up a month to try to make this a summer cleaning happen. I think within the terms of our contract, we can do that.
60 days on written notice.
That needs to be amended to that, but per the staff's recommendation, the RFP and any steps that go along with that.
Any other discussion? Then let's vote. And that motion passed. Next up is, huh?
Yeah, I don't think it's,
I'm sorry.
mine did not register, and I need to just see IT on the break, because I'm. Yeah.
Right.
Mine is yes, I just need to talk to him about, it's not working.
All right, I have had a request for a break, and we've been going at this for quite a while, so we'll take a 10-minute, not a minute more break. Okay, let me have your attention. We're ready to reconvene. The next item of business is the Foundation GMP for Battle Creek Elementary School and Battle Creek Middle School.
Yes, ma'am. Based on the schedule that you all approved before, I can't remember. I think that was in November, but I'd have to go back and look. To keep our projects on track for the construction of the two new schools, Hewlett Spencer was scheduled to bring you tonight the guaranteed maximum price for just the foundation portion of these two projects. You will find that letter in your packet. I always walk up here with too many pieces of paper, and so I get them all mixed up. You see there a foundation package, a guaranteed maximum price for $2,131,062 for the elementary school and $2,507,097 for the elementary school. The total cost for those two is $4,638,159. Of course, this will become a part of the final GMP, just like the site work, which you've already approved. I will remind you that that total, once you do this plus the site work, will bring the total project cost to date for construction at $13,078,433. Mr. Hewlett is here if you have any questions about this, but again, this is moving forward with the schedule that you've already approved.
Is there any discussion?
Just like to find out, is that in line with on budget, everything?
Yes,
Everything?
it is
Okay.
in line with the budget that has been set. Yes, sir.
Is there any other discussion or questions? Mr. Pennings has made a motion to approve. Is there a second? And Mr. Atkinson has seconded. Any other discussion? Then let's vote. Okay, now you tell me when we've got this ready. Oh, I said,
Now it's just open. Did mine go? Yes, I'm back on.
it looks like that motion passed. Thank you. The next is contracted grounds maintenance.
Yes, ma'am. This was discussed at the work session. You can see that we've presented this to you as just to remind you that we did put our contracted grounds maintenance out for bid. We did receive one bid, and the total cost of that bid is $9,525 per mowing. We estimate 22 mowings for the season, which would bring the total cost of that contract to $209,550. That does exceed our current, what we paid this last year, which was totaled about $183,150. We have included a budget amendment along with this to move $35,000 from buildings and contents insurance to the other contracted services for operation of plant to cover that. Those are within the same line item to do that. There was some discussion about considering some other options. Our recommendation would be that we think it would be really hard to get that done in time to begin mowing April 1st. If you want us to do that, we would recommend considering it next year. But that would be our recommendation.
Is there any discussion or question, Mr. Pennings?
Mr. Braden, by the other options, you mean one where we were talking in our work session about maybe going local and seeing if people want one school or two schools?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? There's a motion from Mr. Bates to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Pennings is seconded. Any other discussion? Then That motion did pass. Is there any report from Community Relations? Under new business, the modification of the 2017-18 school calendar. Dr. Marzak.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. You'll notice on your attachment that I am making a recommendation to turn President's Day into a full school day. As a result of the cancellation of school due to the solar eclipse, the flu closing of schools, and snow days that we've had thus far, we have exceeded our allotment of inclement weather days to date by 1 day. After discussing options such as extending the school year into the summer past May 21st, allowing the school system to make up this 1 day will prevent this.
Let me just say to everyone, is when this happens, there's always going to be somebody who's made an appointment or made plans, and this just happens. It's going to affect somebody somewhere, somehow, no matter how you do it. But this seems the most reasonable to me. Is it any of Mr. Bates?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Superintendent, have you checked with the state to see if there's a possibility that we might be able to get some sort of waiver as it relates to the flu, that sort of thing?
Yes, sir. Checked in with Paul Rainwater, the head of attendance for the state of Tennessee. Of all the dates that we've listed, none of them have risen to a level 1 or a level 2 state of emergency. So we are not due for a waiver for any of these days, unfortunately. Tried, didn't work.
Thank you. So what are other alternatives if we don't use this day? What are the alternatives?
Other alternatives are taking away days in spring break or extending the school day past May 21st. May 21st, is, if you look on the calendar, is a Monday. So we come back on a Monday. We could go to Tuesday. We still have snow days probably coming February and March. So at this time, with not knowing what's happening, this is my recommendation. The other recommendation, of course, is to either spring break or summertime.
Are there any other PD days that are coming up that are options?
Yes, we have a professional development day coming up on March the 12th. The state requires school systems to participate in professional development. So that's something that we could ask Paul Rainwater about, but that's the only one we have left for the rest of the year.
But could the professional development day not be moved to extend the teachers'
Could
days?
that be moved into
the summertime?
Into the summertime? Would have to request that from Paul Rainwater, because those are requests that have to be approved by the Tennessee State Department of Education.
And then with regards to the flu, I know you said it didn't rise to a certain level. Did you know that that was required in order to get a waiver? Like, did
No,
you
not
look
at that
into
time.
those? Okay.
No.
So you know that going forward?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? There's a motion by Mr. Moore to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Pennings. Any other?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Atkinson.
For the families that's already scheduled vacations, is it gonna be a way that the child can make up this day so he wouldn't be excused or anything? Cause that's the kind of email I got.
Unfortunately, this will be counted as a regular school day, so if a student's not there, it would be counted as an absence, unfortunately.
Is there any other discussion? Then let's vote. Mine hasn't come up.
Yeah, that's it. It's open. Hit it.
Oh, now it is. Sorry. And that vote does pass. Okay, instruction is next. Okay. All right, in other business, we have instructional low bids of are any of these that we want to take? You want to take them individually or as one, or Or all at once, or what? There's two. Instructional low bid of purchases over 10,000 is bid number 18-025, ELA and Math Online Resources Continuation.
Recommend approve.
Is there any question, any discussion? Ms. Parker?
I guess I just had a question about what this is. I mean, we've heard tonight that we got textbooks on the floor. We know that we have students that don't have textbooks, and now we have more online. We heard that there's not Wi-Fi in some of these schools that's reliable, and these are all online resources. I'm just trying to get an understanding of what this is. It would have been helpful to have this at our work session, but we didn't have this information at our work session, even though it's expiring. So I'm just curious. I just would like for us to have that discussion now, if we can.
Good evening, distinguished board members. This is just a renewal of the online subscription that we currently have. We were informed that this subscription was going to end. It was going to be terminated in February, and we wanted to continue that subscription so that teachers would have it, and this is for a one-year renewal. We were able to negotiate a much cheaper price for this than we normally had, somewhere around $5 per student, so this will be at a significant savings. The total cost is around $37,000, which is much less expensive than what we've paid for the same subscription before, as you can see with the sheet that we have there. If you would look at the proposal. Are there any questions that I can answer about this?
Do we know how much it gets used? Is
We
this
had quite
in
a few-
addition to?
We had quite a few
textbook?
teachers who were panicking because they thought this subscription was going to run out right before testing, so
Right.
it is pretty widely used. And this would be for ELA.
You have data on that, or
and
just
for
a handful of teachers that have emailed you about it?
Quite a few emailed me. I don't have any data.
Quite a few. That's relative.
Yeah, I don't
mean,
have
give me a
any
number.
data or metrics to show how many were using this, but there was a overwhelmingly strong response, people panicking about this going away, so.
Because we don't have anything else to replace it. They don't have any
Correct.
other
We wouldn't have
hard
anything else to replace this.
sources.
Right.
All right.
That's correct.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Ms. Powers?
You know, I'm so sorry, but I feel like I keep hearing the same thing where this is what we need, but we're just kind of, how many math teachers do we have? Are there any high school math teachers here? I would love to know something about this program from someone that has opportunities at.
Good evening. I think I actually wrote the email. We were seeing on our online materials that we teach from on a daily basis that it was about to expire. And about half of my students use the online materials themselves. So it's not just for teaching, it's also the students that are using the online materials.
Where do you teach?
Geometry and algebra.
I'm sorry, which school?
Spring Hill
Spring
High
Hill.
School.
Okay, thank you for giving feedback that you do feel it's valuable, and I very much appreciate you being in attendance tonight. I am curious, Dr. Woodard, how many math teachers we have across the county that are in high school that would have the opportunity to use this, and how many you've heard from? I think that's valid information, because we seem to get lots and lots of requests with the same sales pitch that, oh, it's running out. If we don't renew this, we're not gonna have anything. But that doesn't really validate that this is a good use of our money to me.
Mr. Dudley?
Thank you. Been on the school board 11 years, and from all 11 of those years, our school year ran from somewhere the 1st of August through the end of May somewhere. How come we're having our programs run out in February? I mean, we budget for these programs to last all year, and I'm tired And it's not, you're the newbie on the block, so I don't want to put all the blame on you. But I'm tired of administrators coming to us in January and February saying, hey, this is going to run out and we don't have anything to take its place. First off, we should have it managed where our programs last the whole year. We can replace them during the summer. You know, it is the same story time after time, and I just don't know how we get in this position. I would like to see at budget time that every software program that we're going to use for the year has to be included in the budget proposal. Not pieced together, not piecemeal the way we do it. We've got, I mean, you said this was a surprise that it was going to run out. It wasn't a surprise to somebody because somebody signed a contract last year. And so they knew it was going to run out in February. And you know, it's hard for us to budget when we run up against this each and every month, that something is about to run out. We don't have a replacement, and therefore we're going to be blackmailed into re-upping with the same contract, and we don't know if the contract is working or not. I mean, we have one teacher that says that half her students use it. What's the other half using? If the other half has something else that's available, you know, what is it? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other discussion? I'm sorry, Mr. Atkinson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Dudley. I'd like to go a step further. I would like to see an outline per grade of each grade level's curriculum and what programs we use for each grade level. That way we get it standard across the board. If you got extra, fine, put it in the extras column, what they use. But we need to get on a primary, systematic across the county. Everybody's using the same curriculum, and that seems to be a problem through our county. So that's what I would love to see is a list, because it gets into our realm here. Education's your realm. The bills are our realm. So I like to see a breakdown list, when they expire, and bring it to the school board.
Any other comments, discussion? Ms. Park?
You know, I appreciate the benefit of the doubt that Dr. Woodard's the newbie on the block, but I am under the impression that our second in command is actually seasoned and informed for this role. So I personally would like the data of how many math teachers we have, how many people use this. I would really like some objective data, please.
Any other discussion? We'll move on. The next one is operations low bid purchases. What? Excuse me. Huh?
Yeah, we do not have any this month, Madam Chair.
Okay. What did I miss?
David make a motion.
Oh, David.
Yeah, David made a motion to approve.
I'm sorry.
But it was never seconded.
Second.
Oh, excuse me. Let's back up. Mr. Moore made the motion to accept, and Mr. Pennings seconded the motion. Any other discussion? Then let's vote. Everybody voted. Oh, that's a vote. Yeah.
No, it's not just waiting. Shirley. No. Right, he's gonna, we're requesting that he's bringing it back. More data.
No, we're requesting that he tell us
Yeah.
where it's used. Huh?
No.
Vote is 6-5, correct? So that motion carries. Okay, we're now at finance. The monthly financial report, you all received that, and their budget amendments for you to talk to about as well.
I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the financial reports. Put some notes in the memo covering each one, kind of highlighting.
I appreciate that you went to great length to show us what VACO has done over the years. There may be some parts of it that we kind of think maybe not be completely what we were told, because I think at one point there you said that February, everything in 17, but I know you were going by the notes probably from Mr. Parliament. But I appreciate it. It does seem that we, in order to get VACO gone, we need to pay that bill. And as much as we hate to do it, I think I would urge us to do so. Is there any other discussion? Ms. Powers.
I'm not super savvy in the accounting, so
Okay.
I just needed you to explain to me the paragraph, third paragraph down, when you were saying, when you were preparing the report, you discovered an issue with budgeted revenues. Is this a discrepancy you found, or was it sloppily done? Like, it seems like maybe there was a problem you identified and you were explaining it to us. I just need a little more explanation, please.
Yeah, if you look at the report itself and you look at the first column of numbers where it'll have the total number, the total for revenue, that number should, the budgeted number should match the revenue and expenditure should match. And if you look at both of the numbers, it's off by 499,099, so 500,000 basically rounded. So I'm like, okay, that can't be right, because the budget has to be budgeted with revenues and expenditures equaling each other. So then I went back to the month before, and it did equal, so it's, okay, what happened this month? So a budget amendment was put through before I came, and it made it through its, all of its approval process, and then it was entered. And it was actually done incorrectly because they intended to actually move the money, but they moved the budget number. So that's why I had to do, I called the auditors and say, how do I fix this? So they basically said, go ahead and rescind the budget amendment that was done incorrectly, and then introduce a new budget amendment to fix it. So the rescinding takes it back to what it was, so the revenues and expenditures match. And then the new budget amendment actually moves the money, not the budget. So that's what happened. It was just an error. And it just caught my eye because that's the first thing I checked, that the numbers are matching up.
Well, and I
Does
appreciate.
that help?
Mhm. But I do appreciate that you identified it. I appreciate that you've corrected it. But this occurred under VACO's management, correct?
It was a mistake that happened, yeah.
Okay, and that was in the role of a CFO, which is under CEO, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
Ms. Parker?
I was just looking through on the part about staffing. You mentioned about the CFO, and you actually said that there was a potential candidate that was identified in April of 2017. I'm curious about that. I know that the board didn't approve the budget increase, but as you're well aware, we had to do that for you as well. So I'm just confused as to why that's in there, because we aren't responsible for hiring the CFO.
Are you talking about the VACO summary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the VACO summary, I gotta make a correction. I did not prepare that. That was prepared for Dr. Marzak.
Who prepared it?
By Mr. Parliament.
Okay.
So that, because a lot of it happened before I was even here.
Right.
I wouldn't be the authority on that.
So do you want to speak to that, Dr. Marzak?
Where are you looking?
VACO accomplishments since December 5th, 2016. Staffing, the first item.
Which page are you on?
Page
I don't
3, I
think they're
believe.
numbered.
Okay, gotcha.
1, 2, probably page 2.
It was the third one after the budget amendment behind BACO. Behind the BACO budget.
Okay, got you. No, basically, if you go back to the conversation, we talked about candidates for the CFO position, but there was not a person that was identified for the process, no. So that is incorrect.
Are there any other, did you review this then? Is there anything else that you would want to amend in this particular document?
Apparently that slipped by. I didn't see that.
But you're confident in the rest of it?
I looked over the rest of it. That obviously slipped me by. So yes, I'm confident in the rest of it. Yes.
Okay.
There's several budget amendments that are put forth. Are there any other that you want to discuss, Mr. Bates?
I got a motion to approve all budget amendments, 728 all the way down. All budget amendments with the exception of 7023 is my motion.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
7023.
Then let's vote. It's Moore, Mr. Moore. And that motion passed, I think. Right. Okay, Mr. Moore?
Motion to approve Budget Amendment 7023.
It's been made, the motion is made by Mr. Moore and seconded by Mr. Pennings to approve Budget Amendment 7023. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bates?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't approve the motion. One thing, it's very frustrating to me that in this situation, policy was not followed. I think we had the cart before the horse. If we need, you don't go and spend the money and then come back to the board and say, hey, by the way, I've spent the money. I don't have a budget for that. Now we're going to try to find the funding to put in the budget. That's not proper procedure. Even if it had came before this board, I myself would not have ever approved $360,000 of VACO for their services. I would have, myself personally would have pushed back pretty firmly on that. It would have been a negotiation of something that's more reasonable. In my opinion, this was a central office mistake, and so central office needs to fix this. The only way that I would ever approve myself this particular bill that we received is that this would need to be taken from central office budgets. I have no way ever going to support taking money out of fund balance, taking it from our schools when this is a central office mistake. Now, as far as taking this from central office budgets, that's up for the superintendent and his office to figure out what is the best way to proceed on that. Now, I don't want to, but at the end of the day, the superintendent may have to cut positions in order to fund this. But me, that's the only way that I would ever approve this. I believe that by taking this stance, this is one way of a learning process for our superintendent as well as his office that, okay, if I spend money beyond my budget, there may be some dire consequences that I'm going to have to do within my own budget in order to satisfy it. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Ms. Morency?
I agree that this is excessive, it seems to me, but I also remember sitting here and having this board say whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to get this straightened out is what we have to do. To me, that's giving our permission to do whatever it takes. And so I think that it is a learning curve for the superintendents. It's also a learning curve for this board. And I think we're just as guilty as anyone else in this.
Mr. Pennings?
Well, I'm kind of in a tight position. I agree with Mr. Bates, and I agree with Ms. Morency. I don't think Baco did a very good job. However, I found out of being in business and that myself in my early years. Once you have a bill and you have a contract, it's hard not to pay that bill, even if they don't do the job, unless you have certain language in the contract that says how they have to do it. That being said, do you have any idea of the cost of penalties that were saved, maybe because we did have VACO, even though they didn't do a very good job? I mean, did they save us money in the long run, or did we
Those are
just
listed.
throwing this money away, or what?
Those are listed.
On the very last page of that report, you can see some items there that were some negotiated items, some penalties that the district incurred from previous, I believe they were Murray County employees, not sending in payroll taxes, et cetera. So there were IRS penalties in the amount of $200,000, state of Tennessee penalties related and interest related to Tennessee retirement system of $125,000. And then apparently nobody was reconciling the medical insurance bills. And so when they got a hold of that and had to go backwards reconciling and doing all of that, they came up with $300,000 that was going out the door that shouldn't be. So they stopped that. So they have quoted here like $625,000 that they were able to, put a stopgap on. And then I believe there's an additional $50,000 that recently came in the door, and I'm sorry for getting what that was for.
Yeah, that's overpayment of Social Security.
Only you would know if that's true or not, but I hope it's true, because I firmly believe that we're stuck with this bill whether we like it or not.
Oh, excuse me, Ms. Jack.
Hopefully you can, I'm sorry, one last thing. Hopefully you can see by this, this listing of all these things that they tackled that they walked into a complete nightmare. And when it goes back multiple years, it's even more messy. And when you have a revolving door of positions, and someone leaves before a new person comes in and is trained, a lot of the duties are lost in the transition because there's no one there to tell them. And so then they start doing things based on finding out things that are wrong and what should have been done. So, it just was like it snowballed. It just got worse. So, they did a lot to help get things afloat, and we're still doing it. I mean, it's going to take a while. And again, without having someone going, okay, I've done this for 20 years. This is a list of the things that you need to do every week, every month, every year, every quarter. Without that list, people come in and do the best they can to, put the fires out. And going forward, we're going to establish procedures, operating procedures. There's going to be someone held accountable for it. There's going to be a backup for that person if they're sick or out or leave. The backup person's going to know how to do the basics to cover until we can get someone else in. So, again, going forward, we have good plans, but, this is cleaning up the past.
I've been hearing about this booking it to go by for the last, however, since I've been on the board, a little over a year now, about having procedures to go by. How long will it take you to put that book together?
Well, my number one thing is I need to fill the seats, and I'm working on that now and trying to keep up the day-to-day work in the process of trying to fill the seats.
Okay.
So once the seats are filled, then the seats have to be trained, and then we'll get into,
But you know what needs to be done procedurally,
Yes,
as far as financially, yourself being the CFO, procedurally what needs to be done. I'm not saying put a person with it. I'm saying what jobs need to be done. I would really love to see this manual within 3 to 4 months. I would love to start seeing something produced, because I haven't heard anything being produced yet. I've heard talk about it over the last year about getting procedures wrote down. Well, here you are, a new CFO, and you don't have nothing to go by. So,
Right. We're figuring out as we go, and that is my hope, to have it ironed down, so we have it, we have an operating manual, we know who does what. And part of this learning process is to work with other departments, because every school district is a little bit different. It's staffed a little bit different, it's historically, departments
I
did different
understand that,
things.
and I'm not a financial person either, and I don't claim to be, but I do know about procedures and policies and all that. 27 years, almost 30 years in the military, I know about procedures
You do.
and what you're supposed to be done. Everything's supposed to be laid out in procedures.
Right.
It should have already been done before you come on board.
That's right.
It's got to you. Now I'm tasking you
Okay.
to get it done or get started on it and start presenting something to us within 3 to 4 months. That's kind of what I would like to see. I'm getting a little disturbed after being over here for a year and nothing's been done yet.
Right. Well, that's definitely my goal, and I'll certainly work towards your deadline.
Thank you. Also, we do have a bill to pay, and I said we got to pay it one way or another. And we did task the superintendent to get the job done. We got into a bad situation we shouldn't have been in, and we did tell him, get it fixed. So we've got to pay it.
I'm not sure, Ms. Parker, were you next?
Oh, okay. I just want to say I agree that we need to get this bill paid. I don't disagree with that. I think the distinction that Mr. Bates is making is where those funds come from. And we, this year, have paid a lot out of fund balance because of poor budgeting that was done. And I'll just tell y'all that part of that poor budgeting was done in large part, I feel like, based on direction that I gave Mr. Parliament. And he did not do his job, because there were things that he knew were going to be increases from Stan's budget that were not going to change. And we, like GCA, he knew those things. He just went back and did the bare minimum. And I feel like that's the problem that we've had for the last several months on this board, and I'm tired of it. I'm ready for us to stop the bleeding, and, you know, I think VACO probably should be paid. I think that they learned a lot on our dime. I guess I kind of liken it to, you know, when I was a first-year attorney, and what might take me an hour to do might take a 30-year attorney 20 minutes to do, you know, but they charge differently and I charge differently, and they might say, I'm taking too much time and cut my bill. So I think they learned a lot on our dime, and I just am not ready to pay that just yet. And I certainly am not willing to pay that off of our fund balance, because to me that is on the backs of our students and on the backs of our teachers and really on the backs of our taxpayers. And while we may have said get the job done, Mr. Superintendent, I think what I meant by that was you get in there and you make sure payroll is being done correctly. And it's clear that did not occur. So at some point, we got to hold somebody accountable, and I think that this is when we need to do it, and they need to find this money somewhere else. Not take it from our students, not take it from our teachers, and not take it from our taxpayers any longer. But there needs to be some negotiation on this bill, and there needs to be some deep thought, in my opinion, about where this money can come from.
Ms. Powers?
Thank you. A couple of things. One, this is not directed at you. I appreciate that you're here. From what you say, you have a plan to put procedures in place. So I very much appreciate that. I have heard that before. And there's a phrase, listen to the words, but trust the actions. And I'm going to encourage my entire board to please start keeping that phrase in mind as we assess what's going on at central office. So I would like to state that for the record. Additionally, and I said this back at the time that VACO was here, I equate VACO to what is in my world of agency nursing. It is patients were cared for at the bedside with needs that they had by in nursing with an agency nurse. But while that nurse is getting their salary, so is the agency, and it's just not the most efficient from a budgetary standpoint, and we allowed for this agency slash inefficiency to go on for an awfully long time. Now we have got this bill, and I agree, we do need to pay our bills. I am not in favor of taking it out of fund balance.
Ms. Martin?
I just have two things to say outside of the emotional part of the fact that I feel like we're putting blame vocally, and we haven't owned up to things that were done inappropriately before even getting VACO there. So two opinions from me that I will continue to say. As a business entity, yes, we have an obligation to pay bills. But as a consumer of a company, that company has an obligation also to give appropriate service. And so if appropriate service isn't given, then bills are negotiated because the appropriate service or the level of service was not met. So I don't think in any instance, if I go to McDonald's and the burger's not right, they're gonna fix the burger. I'm not just gonna give them the money for stuff that is not adequate. So I think that's where we have to think of it. Yes, we do have a bill. The bill is sitting in front of us, but was the service up to par? And yes, we did say we need it done, we need it fixed, we need the appropriate action to occur. But there's two sides to looking at this. Yes, we have a bill, we need to pay our bills, but if the appropriate service was not given, then there's a different I feel like. So I think we need to value that aspect of it. The appropriate service was not rendered so that a bill should just be paid without question. That's where I feel. And to, you know, we cover up stuff, we sugarcoat, we make things fluffy. You know, accountability and integrity is huge. And that's not just on the part of VACO, that's on the part of the people that were there prior to. I'm still pushing the button of, we fired a whole payroll department, and they weren't the people that was doing things wrong. The other people stayed or walked out on their own or are still walking around there. So we need to be real.
Mr. Beaver?
Thank you, ma'am. A few minutes ago, you mentioned about VACO identified all these issues. When did these issues actually happen?
The listing actually has everything by date. It progresses as they came in the door and what they dealt with.
And looking back, you know, I see 16, 17, 15, 16, you know. Well, VACO came in here in December of 16. And you know, how much of this did they cost?
I can't say because I wasn't here, but from what they put together from the time I came on, I can vouch for.
Well,
and I don't think they're in the business to do this kind of work, so I don't see what the benefit would be to them to lie about what they've done. And I can tell you that I mean, our auditors this year are asking for a lot of items, and it's taking a lot of time. And the accountant is a VACO person, so, you know, until I can get these seats filled, we have to meet these obligations. And so, and as far as the budget goes, and, you know, thinking about taking it out of central office, keep in mind that as you look at the entire budget, typically your salaries and benefits take up 82%. I don't think that you can not pay people in the middle of the year, so that's probably not a good option. You can't take away their benefits. And then if you just look at how the budget is broke up, usually about 75% of it's under instruction. And the other 15% is under operations, and we've got to pay utility bills, we've got to, take care of the facilities. So there's typically not a whole lot of money in central office. So I'm just throwing that out there as you're debating this.
Well, and I'm not trying to,
I know.
blame you with anything, but it's my understanding that, well, we talk about here,
If there's anything that VACO caused, back to your question, as I'm thinking about this out loud, if there's anything they caused, it goes back to what I said before about coming into a place and not having operating procedures. So you're finding things as they happen. You find that as you get a notice that there's something wrong, or someone calls you and their paycheck's wrong, or their retirement's wrong, or you go, who's reconciling these bills? Well, nobody. Okay, you do it. So they start doing it, and then they find these things. So if the bills weren't done right away, it's because they didn't know someone wasn't reconciling them. So it's like this finding out as you go, which is so frustrating for numbers people, because we want everything to be right and detailed and done when it's due. And so for what that's worth.
all right, thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Parker?
I just want to remind everybody that VACO was approved on an emergency basis. And this contract went on for a really, really long time. I understand we were in an emergency and a crisis mode at the time. But I remember when we had the first conversation about VACO, the discussion was that they were going to be here until March. And then it was, well, they're going to be here until the budget's done. And then they're still here. So, I mean, we aren't responsible for personnel. We're not responsible for hiring these people. And I mean, the reality is Ms. Gagliano was hired outside of the budget. So that could have been done at any time in this whole process. But we've incurred a huge bill, and now I hear people saying, well, we got to pay it. I don't like to pay bills that I don't really feel like I had a huge responsibility in racking up. I mean, I feel like at some point we need somebody that was going to manage the situation that's going to say, well, we're spending too much. This is how much we're spending. We didn't hear that. I mean, we were all shocked the other day when we found out how much we've been paying VACO. So it's not, I mean, I have some issues with their work. As far as procedures not being there, Dr. Marzak was here for a year before VACO was. So where were the procedures then? I mean, there's a lot of things that we can't just look the other way. We've got to acknowledge where we are and how we got here. And I'm sorry, but I don't like this process at all. And I've never liked this process with VACO. But I think that this is something that was not even necessarily of our own doing. And I feel like we're being asked to find a way to make it work. And that just, it feels wrong to me because we don't get paid the big bucks to do that. I didn't get paid $360,000, but I feel like somebody needs to step up to the plate on this and just saying, take it out of fund balance. Just, it seems a little ridiculous to me.
Dr. Marzak?
So taking us back a little bit, this is a conversation that we had during the budget season in March and April. We had a conversation about various central office salaries being out of alignment, and one of those things we talked about was the chief financial officer. And the idea was that we needed to replace a CFO to start to phase VACO out so that they could go off and do what they do with corporations and businesses. And the decision was made to hold off until the fall to talk about the chief financial officer. I would have loved for this process to have started earlier in the year, but we didn't do that. And we decided to hold off, and we decided to push the window back. That's one of the conversations I've had with Kyle Allen, the current VACO account representative, is, we didn't expect to be here this long either. We would have loved to have phased out earlier as well, and kind of pass the reins back over to Murray County Public Schools and kind of go forward from there. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, and that's kind of where we are. And in conversations with Karen Gagliano, Did VACO do an outstanding, phenomenal job as a school system financial department? There are some things that they could have done better, but they're not experienced in Tennessee school finance. We needed a chief financial officer that was experienced in Tennessee school finance to know the nuances of everything that was expected and everything that needed to be done. And that was kind of the push for we need to get out there and we need to find our next chief financial officer, somebody that can come in here and do the work and knows the intricacies and the basically the delicacies of Tennessee school finance. I wish we could have phased him out earlier. I wish we could have. But we have a CFO now who has 20 years experience in the state of Tennessee. She knows what needs to happen and she knows what doesn't need to happen. So I really consider from the time that we were able to hire Ms. Gagliano, we've moved into the next phase, and that's a phase that's better school finance for Murray County Public Schools.
Dr. Marzak, I don't remember ever saying put off looking for a CFO. I have no memory of that. Are you saying, yes, we did say that? No. Okay. Ms. Powell.
I was just needing clarification on when we said that, because I recall a meeting where we did talk about that we need a CFO. And
Yes.
I recall, I think it is true that the economy is good, lots of people are working. I think our salary that we had stated was a little bit low, and we needed to address that, but we didn't address it, and I do not ever recall agreeing to put it off until the fall. For the record.
I'm sorry, I took a bite of really delicious candy. There is a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Is there any other discussion? Then let's vote.
It's so blurry. You only have.
We've got 5 noes, but not everybody's voted. There's 6 noes. It's defeated. Have you voted? He voted yes. Okay.
Madam Chair, question, or Madam Vice Chair. Jake, what does this mean? What's next steps?
Available to pay, so unless the board tells me otherwise, the matter fails, and it can either come back up in a different form, or the board can take initiative to go a different direction.
Mr. Atkinson?
When is the bill due?
We discussed this in November, so.
So it's pretty much due now.
Madam Chair. No, they're ahead of me.
Yeah, as Mr. Woodward said, you know, the board voted not to pay it at this time. So we need to give somebody direction on what to do, whether Jake needs to go try and work with them, or Dr. Marzak, or somebody. But, you know, I think we beat this horse to death, and so we either need to pay the bill or pass a motion to give somebody direction of what to do. And, you know, I really don't want to see it back on the agenda next month.
Ms. Morency. What does this mean for the employees that we have, the VACO employees that we have working now?
I really can't speak for VACO, but I can, if it was me and my company, I would probably pull my people. If I know I'm not going to get paid, why would they keep working? And if they pull the people, we're going to be in serious trouble, I'm telling you right now, because I don't have the positions filled, and the work has to get done.
So there's a chance that we're going to have the same payroll problems that we had before?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So let me get some clarification. How much of the $360,000 is for past services rendered? And how much are you wanting to move into the budget for future services of VACO?
Again, I'm coming in on this in the middle. From what I understand, there was 360 approximately, or 300 for the first half of the year, and this was an estimate for the second half of the year. It was an estimate done by Eric Parliament based on what he felt needed to happen. I don't know if he included all of this work we've had to do for the auditors, because it's really been racking up. And I have
But-
one payroll person that will be in place starting Tuesday, and another one first day is tomorrow, and that is a VACO person.
But now,
he's-
we previously, didn't we approve an amendment where we moved additional funds into your budget to cover your salary as well as other positions? Am I
No,
mistaken on that?
it wasn't approved.
was not
Just my
approved.
part.
Okay.
Just the amendment for my part.
But, so you're saying the 360 is not there's not a bill in somebody's office saying you owe us $360,000?
From my understanding, you paid the first bill before I came. You must have, or they would be asking for the whole amount. And when I came in on it, 360 was an estimate for the rest of the year. And it was doing a budget amendment so that you would have the funds to pay the bill when it came.
So, I mean, before I can go forward, I've got to have a better understanding of what exactly you're proposing for what we're being proposed to take money out of our fund balance in order to budget for. So I need a breakdown, myself.
Okay.
Of what is an outstanding bill for services rendered in the past, and what amount is for services in the future for current staff.
Okay.
So I need to know that, first of all.
I can get that, and again, this is agreement with Dr. Marzak and VACO, so I'm trying to answer for you.
Okay.
But I will see what we can dig up.
But see, for me, I feel like if it is that fluid or kind of gray of an estimate, then by all means, we should be able to engage in some conversations. Now, I'm not going to, spell out what to do from this board, but I would think that staff could take it upon themselves to try to save this county as much money as possible. Okay? So that's one thing. The other thing, as far as guidance on how to go forward, for me personally, what I would prefer to see is if this amendment comes back before the board, that staff have some proposal where to take the funds from other than fund balance, and absolutely nothing from teachers or our students. So this would come out of central office budgets. That would be my guidance going forward as to how to pay for the bill. I'm not advocating absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts of not paying the bill. What my point is it needs to come from somewhere else.
Well, part of it can come out of the business office line items that weren't utilized for staff. We know that. Yeah.
I'm a little confused now, which happens often. So this $360,000 isn't a bill that we already owe?
Because the bills go to you and,
Give me a minute. Let me go back to the month of November.
I do know that the 360, I do remember Eric Parliament talking about it being an estimate and knowing how long the budget amendment process took. We were being proactive to move the money into the account, so once the funds were actually, the work was done and the funds were due, we could pay the bill before the end of the year, because I don't want it to be a payable and going over into the next year and all of that.
So do we get an itemized account of how many hours we're paying VACO each month?
Yes.
So is this 360 based on that?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's based on what you spent the first half of the year, and then estimating some additional hours for audit, but I don't know how much more for audit that he budgeted.
So what you're asking is for this money to be moved over but not spent until we have those itemized lists of what we
Right.
actually owe?
Right, because all of those bills are being held right now.
Can you give us an estimate of when you think VACO will be completely out of the office?
We've had discussions with them, and what I would like to do is, as I get these positions in, like payroll, because I did recommend hiring a VACO person. I've already spent all the Skyward training on him, and he's already done payrolls. So that person is available to teach a new person coming off the street, and that new person is starting next week. So I don't need any more payroll VACO people, so that part's gone. And then I'm going to be working on the benefits specialist position and the supervisor of business. Those are the next two. So as they are hired in, I'd like a little bit of overlap time with the person from VACO that's been doing the job, because they have captured some of the procedures, so that we can make a transition that way. And then the persons are going to have to be trained on Skyward, and we've got some, transition time in there that,
So how many VACO employees do we have currently working in the payroll department?
we have, we only had one, we had two, and then one left, and then the one stayed, and then we got another person in to take the place of the one that left. And then now, the one that stayed is being hired, and then I've hired another person from the outside, so the one that came in to fill the gap when the second one left will be gone.
So how many VACO employees are we paying?
Today, as of today, it'll change Monday.
Okay, as of Monday then, when it changes.
Okay, so for payroll, we will have no VACO people as
Okay.
of Monday.
Benefits, we have two?
We have two that will be working on the benefits reconciliation, all of that. And I'm going to be hiring for that position. So what did we say, Dr. Marzak, when you talked to Kyle, that they wanted to be out of here by?
Mid to late February.
Yeah, so that's our goal right now.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Parker?
Is it possible with the amendment that we could get the specific invoice with the specific hours worked to back up this 360,000? Because I think we're all thinking that there's a bill and there's just an estimate.
Well, there are bills coming in.
Right.
And the estimate is for the entire second half of the year, so that with the budget amendment process, as lengthy as it is, we want to have the money in there so that when we get the final bill from VACO, we can pay it and not lag into the next year and have it be a payable and, you know, just having to wait for a budget amendment and then missing the deadline and can't do a budget amendment because the year closes. So that's the whole purpose of doing the budget amendment first.
Mr. Pennings?
I think we ought to pay our bills, but I really have a problem with paying an estimated bill to VACO. I'd rather pay a bill that I know is exactly what we owe them instead of paying an estimate.
But you're not paying an estimate, you're just moving the money, and then you will have a list of bills that make up that money.
So we're not actually sending the money to VACO, we're just
No.
putting it aside.
No, you're putting the money aside right now.
But just to be clear, when it's put aside, we're not ever gonna see that invoice, because that's gonna go to Dr. Marzak, right? I mean, and it's gonna get paid. It's never gonna come back to the board at that point. For us to turn,
Well-
unless they ask for more, which is highly possible. But at this point, I mean, when we do this, we're basically signing off on this without seeing any of those invoices that you're saying are available right now. And we're saying, sure. And then if there's extra, it rolls back into fund balance at the end of the year, I guess. But assuming that y'all don't move it someplace else that we don't know about.
Well,
I
we
mean,
have to have a budget amendment to move it anywhere. We're running out of time for that. So, it just depends on what you're, you know, asking Dr. Marzak to do versus what you want to be involved in. That's
I mean,
policy
I-
versus administration.
Well, clearly, I will just say I'm not happy with how this has been managed. So I have a little bit of trepidation just writing a blank check for $360,000 and crossing my fingers and hoping that that covers it. And this just doesn't make any sense at
Well,
all.
again,
And
it was
so,
just an estimate so that the money is there and then the bills are coming in and they're all itemized by hour, by person, you know, so.
well, it would have been nice to know about the estimate before we had them all in there. I mean, that's really goes back to the heart of where we have the issue.
Well, I think the estimate, and I'm just telling you what
I
I
know that
remember.
you're the bearer of bad news, and I apologize for that, because, I mean, Dr. Marzak can speak up anytime he wants to if he was the one that negotiated this. I'm just,
I just
I
heard
don't
about
know
the
anything.
estimate when I got here, and Eric was trying to be proactive because of the budget amendment process. He was asked, how much do you think it's gonna be through the end of the year, and he based it on what had already occurred. And that's all it is. It's pretty,
well, I think this has come up twice, and it's been voted down twice. So I think it's time for somebody to put on a different thinking cap and come up with a different solution instead of just, bringing up the same thing each time and expecting a different result. I mean, I think that's where we are. And I don't really feel like it's in our pay grade to try to figure out where this money is supposed to come from. I mean, these are negotiations that did not occur between this board and VACO. I mean, we hired Dr. Marzak, so, I mean, I think he's got to figure this out. Sorry.
Mr. Moore, did you want to speak?
Not really. Okay, we're stuck somewhere here. The only thing I can think of, again, I think Ms. Parker brings up an excellent point, would be to bring some detailed information back to the next work session and let us look at this. I personally would like to know the start date and end date of what invoices we're talking about and what that total sum actually is to a certain date. I don't care whether that's the end of the calendar year of 2017 or what. I think that might let the rest of the board members at least know what we're talking about and not just have an estimation, because clearly the estimation is not going anywhere.
Ms. Martin?
I was gonna say that at this point in where we are, we're wounded. We're wounded. And being wounded because of past experiences, the trust factor is not there. So at this point, I'm gonna say for Joanna, estimations and fluffy things are not what I'm gonna be able to do. We're gonna have to have some definitive things just because we're at a state where we're wounded from what has occurred before. When we get on the right path, when you get your things implemented, when you've got your strategies as he's asked for your protocols and books like that, when all of that gets in place and we're back running smoothly, I think you may be able to come back to the board in with that type of vague booking. But right now, we're not at a place that, it's what I'm hearing from them, and that's what I'm gonna say for myself.
Could you, I'm thinking outside the box a little bit, could you approve the budget amendment and make it contingent, making spending it contingent upon review of the billings? So that way I can get the budget amendment in place so that when the bills come, because we know we're going to have bills coming, we can pay them. But yet the money, and it's only because your budget amendment process takes so long. So we get that in place, and then you have a chance to review the bills, and then you approve paying those bills against that money you've already moved. Unless you approve paying those bills, that money's just going to go back to fund balance. Or, in the case of the business office salaries that weren't spent, those are going to go to fund balance. So you would allow the budget amendment to process without spending any of it until you can look and review the bills. That way, we meet the deadline on the budget amendment, so we don't end the year without having the money in place to pay, because we know we're going to have some bill.
Ms. Powers?
I just love the phrase, think outside the box, so I celebrate that. However, I really am refocusing on listening to the words and trusting the actions in this moment. I cannot have enough trust to go forward with that plan, but I personally would be willing to come in for a special called meeting when we have actual tangible numbers and such, and actual bills. I'm happy to devote my time to things like that, because we've got to problem solve this and see this through, and so I will be happy to participate, but I can't, in good conscience, transfer that money right now.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, then we will move on.
Ms. Kinzer?
Yes.
Can I make a motion to approve budget amendment number 7054?
There's a motion to approve budget amendment 7054. Is there a second? Mr. Moore seconds it. Any discussion?
The diploma is this.
Then let's vote. And that motion passed. Next item on the agenda is a discussion of the FY19 budget priorities.
We did that during the work session.
We didn't. I would just ask that we move that to the work session.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? All right, then we have an item 4. We move from to an FYI discussion of the Spring Hill
I had asked to move it up.
Mr. Moore, we moved it up.
Sorry, no, you weren't here for that. Where's Stan at? Did I miss him? Oh, he's hiding. Don't be moving seats on me. I had asked to move this, and just for one main reason. I want to bring everybody back to where we got into this. I think the majority of our discussion had been on, was there funding available from the county commission and how much? I think that was kind of where, before we moved anywhere on any kind of anything anywhere, that was really where we were talking. Stan, has there been any movement on that as far as information from the county commission on what kind of funding may be available that we could utilize?
I have had a discussion with the county budget director about that. His response to me, and I've also spoken to a couple of county commissioners about that who approached me. I didn't approach them. Who have spoke to that as well. His observation was, and I apologize, I don't know all the different funds. If you talk to the county, they've got a lot of funds they move things around from, but there's some money, some pennies in the budget that was taken from one fund to another fund for a temporary need, and some of it is now available to shift back. He indicated to me there's a portion of that that could be appropriated for debt service without increasing the tax base, tax rate. He indicated to me he thought that would be, there would be sufficient to be able to do that and cover the original proposal that was submitted to you of a projected budget of $17,460,000 for a potential addition at Spring Hill High School. He wouldn't give me any specifics, though, because he said it's ultimately not my decision. It's the county commission's. It's how they decide to move the money. The two county commissioners I spoke with also indicated to me that they thought there were available funds. One even indicated to me there's probably more than that if they, with the money that they could free up. But I think they're, you know, they've got a lot of things on, the way it was told to me, they got a lot of things on their list. So it's not just the school who needs those funds. So it's not like they're going to say, oh, hey, school board, we got $25 million we could borrow. We're just going to give it all to you. I think they would like to know some direction on how much we need. Or at least that's, again, the couple I talked to, what they indicated. Let me just add, I'm giving you a long answer to a short question, but I'll add one more thing. I have been asked to come to the Budget Committee meeting next month to talk about, they've put this on their agenda to talk about needs for the school and how much they could borrow and how they could meet those needs. So they have put that on their agenda. I received an email from the Budget Committee chairman asking me to come to the meeting and speak to that.
I mean, I know if they're asking for an amount, I mean, I think clearly we have needs far in excess of what they would be willing to give to us. I think that's pretty clear on millions and tens of millions and more. But I think it would be, as a board member, it would be helpful before we move ahead with anything with the Spring Hill High School addition or the other, there's some capital, a lot of repair needs we need as well. I just kind of need to know what we're shooting for here. I mean, I don't want to throw a ridiculously large number at them that they're going to laugh at, even though, in my view, and I think the rest of the board, those might be numbers that would be reasonable things to ask for because they are needs. So if they're going to talk about are they thinking they may be able to get us some numbers of what would be available as far as funds that we could talk to them about, and then we could put something together as a prioritized list of the school system?
They didn't indicate, I had no indication of that, whether they would be willing to say, we'll give you X, you break it out how you want to spend it, or if they wanted to know a list of needs. Now, obviously, I can take them a list of needs, but really, I don't speak for you. You know, my prioritized list is not your prioritized list.
Understood.
So, but I can certainly show them, I mean, currently, and if you want to take the whole thing, currently, there's still $9.5 million of the original $29 million that's unfunded. Year two, which we haven't even talked about year two, we're getting ready to go into year three, was, it's a little over $2 million that was identified there. Now, if you'll remember on that $9.5 million list, we did bring you, we prioritized and made a recommendation to you before. We kind of took out the things that we thought were non-essentials. Things still need to be fixed, but like broken ceiling, broken floor tile, we called that a non-essential. Sure needs to be fixed. But we're taking out those non-essentials. We dropped that $9.5 million down to $3.9 million. So those are needs too. But then again, you know, we do know that we have an expansion need at Spring Hill High School. I mean, there's no doubt that we need some additional space. You obviously heard a lot of talk tonight, but we know definitely that we need some additional space.
Okay.
Mr. Bates?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Breeden, it's my understanding, the word's on the street, that they have about 12 cents that they could possibly dedicate towards debt service.
I've heard that number used.
Could your office maybe, because that's about that's over $2 million per year in available funding, that maybe your office can go back and do a little homework and extrapolate out what that means in dollars as far as what borrowing capacity, what does that, you know, what kind of bond could they do for that? And I think that would be helpful for us to know what is the ceiling that we're dealing with. Not that we necessarily would advocate going up to that full ceiling, but at least we know, okay, so are we limited to just addressing one need because we've got a whole, gamut of needs. My preference would be to address some of the issues at the Spring Hill High School as well as to tackle the old list that we never finished tackling and get that done. And then we can deal with the next budget season as far as what needs to be added to a new list. But we're still, I think, working on our old list that we've never even got through yet. So that's what I would like for us to be able to look at. But again, I think a lot of that's contingent upon we need some information just to know what are we dealing with here. So maybe your office can do a little homework on that and maybe give us, the school board members, an idea of what we have. Give us some inside information.
We can certainly pursue that. We will have to get assistance from the county budget because I think that will ultimately come from bond council. I don't know how much money a penny will borrow, for instance. I do know they've got calculations and how they could back into that, but we certainly can pursue that.
Any other discussion on that? But we will bring to the work session and be able to discuss in more detail.
I'll see if I can, I'll see if I can get any confirmation of that. What I gave you tonight is what I have been able to get since the last work session. I think, again, the budget director's kind of like I am. He can't speak for the commission
Right.
any more than I can speak for the school board. So he is very cooperative and very willing to help, but again, he can't do that, so we'll do the best.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're at FYI, but we do need to talk about, and Stan, these all have your name on it, so. The ESA architect report?
Yeah, we presented all of this at the work session.
That's right.
And so we just left it on there as, for those who might not have been here, but all of that was discussed at the work session,
And all of
everything
the
you see.
rest of that was an FYI as well?
Yes, ma'am, that's
Okay.
correct.
Then, is it FYI all the way down here? Okay, great. Then we are ready to meet in attorney-client. What? Crayola, is it not, Dr. Woodard, is the Imagination Schools, is that the grant?
I'm sorry, Vice Chair, I couldn't hear you.
Her question is about the Imagination Schools.
Yes, ma'am, what was the question?
Are we moving forward?
Yes.
Is there any,
That's the grant, isn't it, Dr. Woodard? Is that?
Correct, it was a
that
grant by the Tennessee Arts Commission.
We've applied for the Tennessee Arts Commission for.
Yes.
are we just in the waiting period to find out if we received the grant?
Yes, we'll find out if we won the grant in April. They'll announce the winners.
And I'm under the impression we could win a portion of the grant or something to fund it entirely?
Yes, ma'am, you can either be fully funded or partially funded.
And so once you know, you will bring it back to us and then
Correct.
we will resume discussion?
Yes, correct. I think it would be wise in the meantime for us to maybe think about budgeting that if that's the direction that we want to go in as we go into budget season, just as a plan B. But we have a pretty good shot of getting the full grant and the full amount. We have a lot of support.
If we receive the full grant, does that fund it entirely or will it require a match from us?
Yes, it will fund it entirely. They are asking for a 2-to-1 match, which we satisfy the match through having the teachers in the school. So the teacher salaries that we pay for our positions will satisfy the matching of the grant. So we would meet the criteria.
Okay, but I hope we can revisit my comments, which I made at the work session, that I hope that we are doing what we are doing currently well before we take on any new programs. So I look forward to revisiting this down the road.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we will adjourn briefly for an attorney-client meeting. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Our last, or next to last order of business is the dismissal of a tenured teacher. Is there any discussion? Motion by Mr. Bates, second by Mr. Moore. Is there any discussion?
Your motion is to uphold the suspension? I mean, the
What is the
termination.
motion is to uphold the? Okay. Did you get that, Charlie? Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation on the dismissal of a tenured teacher. Ready to vote?
Ms. Shirley, would you record me as a yes?
We still got a couple of votes to record. Okay. Okay. And Tom, Mr. Dudley's gone. So, motion carried.